everyone. This is a City Planning Commission review session. Today is Monday, June 19th, 2017, and a quorum is present. First item on the agenda is the proposed Urban Development Action Area Project Designation, project approval, disposition of city-owned property, zoning map and zoning text amendments, and a special permit to facilitate supportive housing and housing for affordability. Project name is Edwin's Place, and our presenter is Anthony Grande from the Brooklyn office.
Good afternoon. This is an application by the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development for a UDAP with disposition, zoning map and zoning text amendments, and a zoning special permit to facilitate the development of a new 8-story mixed-use building containing 126 units of supportive and affordable housing, including ground floor space for community facility or retail. The location of the project is in the western portion of the Brownsville neighborhood, which is in eastern Brooklyn within Community District 16, outlined in red on the map. The project area consists of one tax lot located at 3 Livonia Avenue. It contains 200 feet of frontage on Livonia Avenue, 100 feet of frontage on Grafton Street, and 100 feet of frontage on Howard Avenue. Howard Avenue is a wide street, and it is also the southwest corner of the project area is across from East 98th Street here, which is also a wide street. The project area is near to the convergence here of Kings Highway as well as Rockaway Parkway, which are also wide streets and major corridors in eastern Brooklyn. The existing zoning in the project area is R6, which is a district that covers most of the surrounding area. The project area is owned by HPD and is currently vacant. It had been part of the Marcus Garvey urban renewal area and started in 1968. That renewal plan expired in 2008. We can see in the aerial the elevated MTA 3 line infrastructure runs along East 98th Street as well as Livonia Avenue, and due to the way that it turns here from one street onto another, the closest portion of the elevated rail is to the southwest corner of the project area. North of the project area, on the same block, there are 2-story single-family Nehemiah homes. We see larger scale apartment buildings across the streets on East 98th Street, 6- and 7-story buildings located here, and also ground floor retail. The area is well served by public transits. As we can see, the elevated 3 line in the bottom left of this image is the Saratoga Avenue station with the platform directly adjacent to the project area here. There are also several bus lines that serve the area. The B7 runs along Saratoga Avenue, B15 runs along East 98th Street, and the B47 bus runs along Rockaway Parkway. The R6 district extends to the majority of the surrounding area, as can be seen on the map. There's also a CA2 district just west of the project area, which runs along Kings Highway and also East 98th Street. There are C13 and C23 commercial overlays in the surrounding area, particularly C23 overlays adjacent to the project area on 3 sides across the streets in across all 3 street frontages. The predominant land use in the surrounding area is residential, ranging from single-family and 2-family to multifamily apartment buildings. Retail in the surrounding area is primarily along Livonia Avenue as well as East 98th Street. Along Livonia Avenue is primarily mixed-use buildings with residential above, and we do see in the red here are standalone commercial buildings, mostly within the CA2 district. 3 blocks east of the project area is the Betsy Head Park and Pool, which is just visible on this map, and that's an 11-acre DPR-owned park. So to provide some context for this project, HPD is pursuing implementation of the Brownsville Plan, which was released earlier this month. HPD's Brownsville Plan calls for HPD investment and development of vacant city-owned sites along Livonia Avenue, and HPD envisions Livonia Avenue as a future mixed-use corridor with new affordable housing and ground floor retail along the corridor. The Livonia Avenue initiative was an initiative in East New York. It was a strategic plan of HPD's to transform Livonia Avenue corridor into a vibrant mixed-use area by adding residential density and creating retail opportunities along Livonia Avenue. So this led to the Livonia Commons rezoning in 2013, which is just beyond the rail corridor here, creating an R7A C24 district along several blocks of Livonia Avenue. So HPD in some ways sees this as an extension of the Livonia Avenue initiative, bringing similar actions to Livonia Avenue in Brownsville. So we see these outlined in yellow are HPD-owned sites that they are looking to release an RFP for development of affordable housing and ground floor retail here. And then this is the Edmonds Place project area that is under consideration here. This photo shows the project area existing conditions from the southeast corner of the site. This photo shows the sidewalk in front of the project area along Livonia Avenue. We can see the elevated infrastructure here and the project area on the left. This photo shows the project area from the eastern edge on Grafton Street. We have the elevated infrastructure here, Nehemiah Homes, and then also some of the larger apartment buildings that are on East 98th Street. The proposed development would be an 8-story mixed-use building containing 125 units of supportive and affordable housing and 1 superintendent's units, and cellar office space for delivery of on-site support services for residents. There would also be leasable ground floor space fronting on Livonia Avenue. At least 60% of the units would be supportive units for the formerly homeless. The remainder would be affordable for individuals and families with incomes at or below 60% AMI. The building would have a total zoning floor area of about 99,000 square feet for an FAR of 4.94. Most of that floor area would be designated as Community Facility Use Group 3, nonprofit institution with sleeping accommodations. Approximately 3,000 square feet would be leasable space on the ground floor, and this could be designated as Retail Use Group 6 or potentially Use Group 4 Community Facility, depending on the tenant. The proposed building would have a street wall height of 71 feet pursuant to a mayoral zoning override for the street wall height, which has a max of 60 feet in the proposed district. There would be a 20-foot setback after the 71 feet, and the building would rise to a total height of 80 feet 4 inches. The building will achieve Enterprise Green Communities certification with energy efficiency and stormwater management features. There would be an outdoor landscape terrace at the 8th floor, which is visible in the rendering here. No parking would be provided, as this Use Group 3 nonprofit with sleeping accommodations does not require parking in the R72 district. The street wall would be set back from the street line by 7.5 feet on the Livonia Avenue frontage in response to the elevated rail infrastructure in front of the project area. Additional setback from the southwest corner of the lot would be above the first floor, also in response to the elevated infrastructure which comes closest to the project area at that corner. The ground floor leasable space would be approximately 3,000 square feet, would have 2 entrances on Livonia Avenue. The applicant is requesting 4 actions. One is a zoning map amendment, which would amend the existing R6 district to an R72 C23. Second would be a zoning text amendment to create a mandatory inclusionary housing area within the project area, mapping options 1 and 2. Third action would be an urban development action area designation and project approval and disposition of city-owned property. And the final action would be a zoning special permit pursuant to zoning resolution 74-903, which increases the allowable FAR for community facility nonprofits with sleeping accommodations from 3.44 to a maximum of 6.5. This action would approve an FAR of 4.79, which is the specific FAR for this project. So this would be a supportive housing run by a nonprofit sponsor. So in the entrance to the housing would lead directly into a cellar where there would be amenity space for the tenants of the residents of the building. And the cellar space would be run by the nonprofit that would be running the building. So in this space over here, we see social service offices, and that's where social services are provided to residents. Other amenities include the multi-purpose room, exercise space, laundry room, computer lab, as well as this landscapes open space in the rear of the building, which would be at grade with the cellar. Social services provided to the residents of the building would include services such as case management, medical care, mental health counseling, nutritional services, entitlement benefits counseling, parenting and family skills, and financial literacy and job placement services. The application is here for certification, and I can take any questions.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Deluz.
Hi, how are you? Has the unit mix been determined yet?
Yes.
Did I miss that?
So I can give that to you. So the studios would be 45%, 1 bedrooms 24%, 2 bedrooms 21%, and 3 bedrooms 7%.
And is there a breakdown of which percent of those would be supportive versus just affordable?
There is a breakdown. I don't have that detail though.
That'd be helpful to know.
Provide that.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Leonard.
Yeah, since this building's, I guess it's the north facade, the opposite side than we're looking at here will be, you know, permanently, it's adjacent to the small-scale Nehemiah homes. What, it looks from our materials as if it's getting the same treatment as the facade we're seeing here. Is that the case?
It does appear to be the case based on the images that we have. I don't have any
Yeah.
renderings that show the north side of the building.
Well, maybe we can find out when it comes back for public hearing, but it does
Yeah.
seem that the north side of the building deserves some special attention because it will be permanently exposed.
I think the applicants could talk about
Okay.
exactly what the north side of the building would
Excellent.
look like.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Ortiz.
I'd be curious as to what, what they anticipate, what kind of use they anticipate on the ground floor, and the degree to which the owner developer is comfortable with that, the demand for either community, space or retail, that location. Talk about the context, is there anything on either side, with respect to, what's happening on the ground floor specifically?
Right. So actually, backing up to the area map, There are mixed-use buildings that we see within a couple blocks, and these are active uses. There are retail uses here, and also across the street here in this building. So that's some of the mixed-use retail uses in the area. Also, this is a one-story, commercial use here. It's not mixed use. So that's kind of the retail in the area. As far as what the applicants are looking for, the only information that I have specifically is the use groups that are expected, and so it's essentially retail or community facility, something like a nonprofit office.
Where's the entrance starts into the subway?
The entrance to the subway is at Saratoga Avenue here, so it's sort of at the other end of the platform.
Other questions? I'll just note that Commissioner Reade and I had a whispered conversation about how unusual and what a pleasure it is to see affordable housing designed by Robert A. M. Stern. So this item is certified.
Our next presenter is Corin Manning of the Brooklyn office on item number 2, page 37, the Linden Boulevard rezoning, which involves zoning map and zoning text amendments to facilitate mixed-use developments, including affordable housing. This is the Linden Boulevard project. We're on page 37.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Canyon Sterling Emerald, LLC, the applicant, seeks 2 actions to facilitate the development of a vacant block in the East New York neighborhood of Brooklyn, Community District 5. The applicant requests a zoning map amendment to change from R4 and R4C12 to R8A C24, R7A, and R6A zoning districts, as well as a zoning text amendment to designate the project area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area. These actions will allow the development of 4 buildings with 521 affordable housing units, as well as retail and community facility uses. As a little bit of background, on November 7th, 2001, the City Planning Commission approved the disposition of Lot 39, a lot located within the proposed project area, which the New York City Council adopted on December 11th, 2001. Lot 39 was a city-owned vacant lot located on the easterly side of Emerald Street between Linden Boulevard and Loring Avenue. The applicant purchased the site as part of an assemblage that includes the entire block in March 2016. The project area is located in the East New York neighborhood of Brooklyn, Community District 5, 1 block west of the Queens border. The surrounding area includes residential, community facility, and commercial uses in R4, R6, and C41 districts. Linden Boulevard, which borders the proposed project area to the north, is a major thoroughfare measuring 170 feet wide. Uses in the immediate area include a 3-story medical office and a large parking lot, a 3-story medical office to the north on Linden Boulevard, a 1-story medical office and accessory parking lot to the west across Emerald Street, 3-story residential buildings to the south on Loring Avenue and the Lindenwood Diner, and accessory parking to the east on Amber Street. South of the project area are 1 to 4-story multifamily walk-up buildings in R4 and R6 zoning districts. To the southwest is Spring Creek Gardens, an apartment complex of 5-story buildings on 2 blocks in an R6 zoning district. A multiplex cinema with accessory parking lots is to the west of the project area, Linden Cinemas, located in a C41 district. To the west are the Louise H. Pink houses, a NYCHA development with 1,500 dwelling units in 22 8-story buildings in an R4 district. Northwest of the project area is Linden Plaza, which consists of 5 17-story apartment buildings in an R6 district, as well as Dumont Green, a recently constructed 8-story apartment building with affordable housing. North of Linden Boulevard are low-density 1 to 3-story residences and vacant lots in an R4 district. Linden Center, a new shopping center, was recently built on the north side of Linden Boulevard, just over the Queens border. Tudor Park, a 13.5-acre public park, is located to the northwest of the development site along Conduit Avenue. Conduit Boulevard, another major thoroughfare, is located approximately 3 blocks to the east. Linden Boulevard is served by the B15 local bus, which runs to JFK, as well as the BM5 express bus with service to Midtown Manhattan. The project area is over a half mile from the Grant Avenue A station, the nearest subway station, and is outside the transit zone. The project area will consist of an entire block measuring 100,000 square feet in area, which is currently vacant. The 29 tax lots that comprise block 4496 are proposed to be merged into 4 tax lots. The block is bounded by Linden Boulevard to the north, Amber Street to the east, Loring Avenue to the south, and Emerald Street to the west. Frontage along Linden Boulevard is zoned R4 C12 at a depth of 100 feet, which consists of 20,000 square feet of lot area. The remaining portion of the block is zoned R4 and consists of the remaining 80,000 square feet of lot area. Single-family detached residences and multifamily residential uses are permitted as of right in R4 districts. The maximum FAR in R4 is 0.75 for residential uses and 2.0 for community facility uses. Local retail uses at a maximum FAR of 1.0 are permitted within the C12 overlay along Linden Boulevard. Block 4496 has 200 feet of frontage along Linden Boulevard, 500 feet of frontage along Emerald Street, 200 feet of frontage on Loring Avenue, and 500 feet of frontage along Amber Street. Loring Avenue, which fronts the property to the south, has a width of 70 feet. Emerald and Amber Streets have a width of 60 feet. There is an existing 20-foot wide curb cut on Emerald Street, approximately 100 feet from Loring Avenue. As you can see in these photos, the entire site is vacant today. There are some unique site conditions here. As you can see in the top left photo, Loring Avenue actually ends at Amber Street, where a retaining wall separates the 2 streets. At this southwest corner of the project area where the 2 streets meet, Loring Avenue is approximately 7.5 feet higher in elevation than Amber Street. No other properties are affected by the proposed action. The applicant proposes to construct 4 new buildings for residential, commercial, and community facility uses in the project area, which will bring the border of block 4496. The proposed development will range in height from 8 to 12 stories and will contain just over 452,000 square feet of floor area for a total FAR of 4.52. The proposed development will include approximately 413,000 square feet of residential floor area, which makes up 521 dwelling units, as well as 17,000 square feet of commercial floor area, 21,500 square feet of community facility floor area, and accessory parking for 100 cars. Building 1 will have frontage along Linden Boulevard, Emerald Street, and Amber Street, and will have a depth of approximately 170 feet from Linden Boulevard. Building 1 would rise to a height of 12 stories with 197,000 square feet of floor area, including 180,000 square feet of residential floor area with 235 dwelling units. The building's first floor will consist of 17,000 square feet of commercial retail space as well as 13,000 square feet of floor area for parking. Building 2 will have frontage along Emerald Street and will consist of an 8-story building with 84,000 square feet of residential floor area and 109 dwelling units. The building's ground floor will contain 7,700 square feet of community facility floor area, as well as space for parking. Building 3 will have frontage along Loring Avenue, Emerald Street, and Amber Street at the southern end of the block. The building would be 9 stories tall with just over 70,000 square feet of residential floor area and 77 dwelling units. The building's ground floor would contain 6,500 square feet of community facility floor area. Building 4 will have frontage along Amber Street and consist of an 8-story building with 79,000 square feet of residential floor area and 100 dwelling units. The building's ground floor will contain 13,000 square feet for parking. The proposed project would include just over 16,500 square feet of open space in the form of landscaped roofs and terraces, including a 4,620 square foot play area accessory to a proposed daycare, and 11,900 square feet accessory to the proposed residential uses. On-site parking spaces would be made accessible by 4 new curb cuts on Amber and Emerald Streets. The applicant is seeking financing for this proposed 100% affordable housing development under HPD and HDC's Extremely Low and Low Income Affordability Program, ELA, as well as under HPD's Our Space Initiative, which funds the new construction of rental units affordable to formerly homeless households whose incomes are at or below 30% of AMI. The applicant is also seeking funding under the Mixed Income Program, Mix and Match, which funds the new construction of mixed-income multifamily rental projects in which 50% of the units are at low-income rents affordable to households earning up to 60% of AMI. And where the other 50% of units would have rents affordable to moderate and or middle-income households earning up to 130% of AMI. The proposed development requires two actions. First, a zoning map amendment to change from R4 C12 to R8A C24, and to change from R4 to R6A and R7A. And second, a zoning text amendment to designate the project area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area. The proposed zoning map amendment would change the zoning district on the northern portion of the block at a depth of 100 feet from Linden Boulevard, from R4 C12 to R8A C24. A southern portion of the block at a 100-foot depth from Loring Avenue from R4 to R7A, and the remainder of the block from R4 to R6A. The proposed residential districts permit residential and community facility uses. The maximum allowable residential FAR is 3.6 in R6A districts with inclusionary housing, 4.6 in R7A districts with inclusionary housing, and 7.2 in R8A districts with inclusionary housing. The maximum allowable community facility FAR is 3.0 in R6A districts, 4.0 in R7A districts, and 6.5 in R8A districts. In the C24 district proposed within the proposed R8A district along Linden Boulevard, the maximum allowable commercial FAR is 2.0. The proposed zoning map amendments would allow a maximum FAR of 4.52 across the entire site. In R8A C24 districts, the maximum base height when providing affordable housing pursuant to the inclusionary housing program is 105 feet with a maximum building height of 140 feet without a qualifying ground floor or 145 feet with a qualifying ground floor. The maximum number of stories is 14 with a 10-foot setback required between minimum and maximum base heights on 5 streets. In our 6A districts, when providing affordable housing, the maximum base height is 65 feet with a maximum building height of 80 or 85 feet without or with a qualifying ground floor. And the maximum number of stories is 8, as well as a 15-foot setback is required between the minimum and maximum base heights on a narrow street. In our 7A districts, when providing affordable housing, maximum base height is 75 feet. Maximum building height is 90 or 95 feet without or with a qualifying ground floor. The maximum number of stories is 9, and a 10-foot setback is required between the minimum and maximum base heights. The proposed development will comply and conform to the applicable zoning district regulations. The R8A C24 district will direct the greatest bulk and height on the block to be located along Linden Boulevard, which is 170 feet in width. The R7A district is proposed along Loring Avenue, opposite recently constructed 3-story multiple dwellings. Loring Avenue measures 70 feet wide and rises in elevation to a point approximately 7.5 feet higher than the grade level of the southeast side of the proposed development site, which according to the applicant would reduce the perceived height of the development at the south side. An R6A district is proposed across the remainder of the block, which will facilitate contextual medium-density residential and community facility uses at a lower scale in the mid-block than is proposed at the two ends of the block. The proposed medium-density residential zoning districts, R8A, R7A, and R6A, with the C24 overlay along Linden Boulevard, would facilitate the development of a significant amount of affordable housing and community facility uses, as well as local retail services along the Linden Boulevard corridor. According to the applicant, the proposed districts are appropriate given the range of building densities and heights in the surrounding area, which includes 17-story towers and 8-story apartment buildings along with lower-rise homes. The second action is a proposed zoning text amendment which would make the project area a mandatory inclusionary housing designated area in which MIH options 1 and 2 would be applicable. Option 1 requires that a minimum of 25% of the residential floor area be designated as affordable to households at an average of 60% of AMI, with 10% designated as affordable to households at or below 40% of AMI. Option 2 requires that a minimum of 30% of the residential floor area be designated as affordable to households at an average of 80% of AMI. The applicant proposes to use option 2. Under this option, 157 out of 521 proposed dwellings will be permanently affordable to households at an average of 80% of AMI, while the entire project is proposed to be affordable per regulatory agreements. According to the applicant, the proposed actions would facilitate the development of a project that will provide needed affordable housing consistent with the city's housing plan, as well as retail and community facility uses that will serve the local community.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Delarose.
Hi, Corin, two questions. It would just be helpful when it comes back, if we could get the breakdown between the number of ELA units versus the mix and match units, especially given the total number of units and what percentage will be permanently affordable. That would be helpful to kind of go in have an understanding of what's in discussion with HPD and HDC. I think you answered my second question, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask it. If you mind going back to the zoning map, proposed changes. So is the primary rationale for putting the R6A in the middle and the R7A, I guess that's to the south, the change in elevation?
Elevation and the street width, so Loring Avenue is a wider street than those two side streets.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions? Commissioner Sweat.
Just a couple of questions, observations. First of all, on the slide depicting the area, seems to be a parking lot about 2 blocks over. Can you tell me what that is used for?
Sure. Are you referring to this
Yes,
parking
yes,
lot
right
here?
there.
So that's actually all for the movie theater. They have quite a large parking lot.
Got it. Okay, and obviously, the 100% affordable component is an inducement, and from my perspective, to be aligned with this project. But what happens if for some reason we rezone it, and the developer, and it's mandatory MIH, but the developer doesn't proceed with the project as 100% affordable? What's our protection?
So mandatory inclusionary housing would be the requirement that any new residential development here would have to include 25 to 30%
It
affordable
seems like
housing.
a large upzoning for just 25% affordable, 30% affordable housing. So that is my concern. I would like to have some more assurance that the project is actually going to get built as 100% affordable.
Commissioner Delarose.
To that point, I think it'd be helpful maybe to talk about, when it comes back, the AMI, the AMI levels in the community and how that compares to the AMI levels proposed for the development. It may be that some of it is pretty close to market. A portion of this project may be close to market anyway.
We'll have that information when this project comes back.
Commissioner Levin.
Corin, have the community facility space users been selected yet? Do we know who's going to be in there?
I don't believe they've been selected, but they have spoken about potentially including a medical office and a daycare.
Actually, Karen, a question. While not related to land use, what do we know of this developer and their track record in producing affordable housing?
So this is Radson Development. They have built affordable housing not far from here in East New York. New Lots Plaza, which was approved by the commission, not sure exactly the year, maybe 7 years ago, as well as a number of projects in the Bronx. There are 4 projects.
Well, another project certified. Thank you.
Let's now move to item number 3, page 81, 343 Warren Avenue, which is a proposed acquisition of property to facilitate continued use of a daycare center. Commissioners, I'd like to introduce Amrita Mahesh, who's making her very first presentation today.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Administration for Children's Services and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services request approval for the acquisition of a property to facilitate the continued use of the building as a child care facility. The property, located at 343 Warren Street, is known as Warren Street Center for Children and Families. It is in the Boram Hill neighborhood in Community District 2 of Brooklyn. The building is privately owned and has been leased by the city. The building is privately owned and has been leased by the city since 1974. The site at 343 Warren Street is mapped with an R6B zoning district, which allows for residential and community facility uses with a maximum FAR of 2.0, base heights between 30 and 45 feet, and a maximum height of 55 feet. The neighborhood consists of 3 to 5 story brownstone row houses, medium-density apartment buildings, and community facilities. The Boram Hill Historic District is mapped 2 blocks to the northeast of the site, while to the southeast is the New York City Housing Authority's Gowanus houses. To the west is Smith Street, a neighborhood mixed-use commercial corridor consisting of restaurants, bars, and retail stores with residential uses on upper floors. The site is easily accessible by public transportation, including the F and G trains on Bergen Street and the B57 and B65 buses that run along Smith Street. Warren Street Center for Children and Families occupies the entire 2-story building, including the cellar and rooftop. The Child Care Center occupies a total of 29,732 square feet. The building has 1 primary entrance and exit and a secondary egress exit. An accessible ramp from Warren Street leads to the main entrance, which is located on the western face of the building. The Warren Street Center for Children and Families serves up to 120 preschoolers ages 3 to 5 years old, as well as infants and toddlers 4 months to 2 years old. Current enrollment is approximately 80 to 90 students. The center promotes developmentally appropriate practices year-long to enhance children's physical, cognitive, social, and emotional development. The program staff consists of 21 employees, including teachers, paraprofessionals, and support staff. The center provides children with nutritionally balanced breakfast, lunch, and snacks daily, and is open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. An at-grade play area is located in the rear of the building and is directly adjacent to the classrooms on the first floor. Under the supervision of a child care worker, children are encouraged to be part of outdoor play activities as well as indoor activities such as the arts, music, and computer skills that are appropriate to their age and stage of development. The facility also utilizes Boram Park, located across the street, for outdoor play. Children are accompanied and supervised by child care staff. Boram Park, located at 363 Warren Street, has been jointly operated by the Department of Parks and Recreation and the Board of Education since 1967, as it also serves the Cobble Hill School for American Studies, located immediately to the west of the park. The last application for acquisition of the site was approved by the City Planning Commission on December 14, 1994. The 20-year lease for the property expired on May 18, 2015. Since then, the city has entered into a license agreement with the property owner and is awaiting execution of a new 10-year lease and license agreement. General improvements to be made to the facility have been outlined in a proposed scope of work. The Department of City Planning staff toured the facility on May 18, 2017 with ACS staff and confirmed that the facility was in a state of good repair. The Administration for Children's Services and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services request approval for the acquisition of the property to facilitate the continued use of the building as a child care facility.
I'll note that this is the first of 2 ACS centers that we're reviewing today. This one is the one that we're more familiar with, which is a renewal of a long-standing lease. The next one is exciting. It's a new facility. I wanted to note that we are always optimistic that things will slow down a little bit in the summertime, and so we're planning at some point in July at a review session to invite our colleagues from ACS to come and speak to the commission more broadly about how they think about these centers. We think it might be helpful as we're seeing more and more of these lease renewals. So questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Cirillo.
It's just a clarification issue because this came up once before, and I know when we have the presentation, it'll be helpful to get to the bottom of this, but are we approving a 10-year lease renewal, or are we approving the acquisition and then DCAS will negotiate whatever the term may be? I remember this coming up before. I hope I'm remembering this correctly. Is it actually the 10 years, or is it the acquisition, and then it could be 10 years, it could be 5 years, it would be?
If I may, Commissioners, you're approving a 10-year lease renewal?
10 years.
Yes, I think we had that conversation a couple of years or so ago, and it was the opinion of the commission that given the history of these facilities,
Yes.
you would feel very comfortable with the imposition of that lease term.
Okay, good. No, I have no problem with it. I just want to make sure that I understand that we're doing with an actual date attached to the lease. Okay,
Yes.
terrific, thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Levin?
Yes, Amrita, thank you. Welcome. That was a very nice presentation. I have there are two questions here. One is it looks like it's a very extensive scope of work. New roof, new HVAC, new windows, there's a lot of work to be done here. So and it's good, and I would think that, perhaps as a result of the conversations we had about these lease renewals the last time we got a big group of them, that ACS is doing a much better job of getting these applications ready for us to look at and identifying the work that needs to be done, and I really appreciate that. I'm really struck by looking at the facade of this building. There's no sign on the outside. There's no door. You have to go down this little alley and duck into the building. It just seems like a very forbidding place to take a toddler or a preschooler. And I'm just curious, maybe ACS can explain to us why it needs to look like a prison or a fortress or a unidentified secure site. It looks like there's like secret city data in there or something.
They skiff.
Yes, Commissioner Marini.
Welcome and thank you. I just have a general comment, because I think we've picked this up before, and I'm going to repeat it again. We have, daycare centers, and I'm glad, Anna, that you absolutely right, we have an extensive scope of work that was provided for the renewal of this lease. But if we go back to the prior lease, 1994, one of the conditions was that prior to the execution of a new lease, HRA and the city administration arranged for irrelevant. It was related to the major capital systems of the building, including air conditioning. I'm going to keep on this. Why is it that we wait until lease renewals to have air conditioning systems upgraded? I mean, it just doesn't seem fair to the kids that are in this facility that we wait until the end of the lease to then entice the owners for a 10-year lease to give us these upgrades. And throughout this report, it says that the city planning and HRA, DGS, do intermittent reviews of the centers to make sure they're up to speed. So more of a comment, not a question. I just think that we have to, if that's going to be the statement in the documentation, then we need to periodically check on these centers to make sure that the systems are working properly, and we should not wait till the end of the lease to then renew a lease to entice the owner to make these upgrades or changes to the building.
Another good topic for when ACS comes and makes their presentation. Other comments? Okay, the application is certified.
Thank you.
Let's now move to item number 4, page 102, proposed site selection and acquisition of property concerning a daycare center, a new daycare center. Now, presenter is Dana Driscoll from the Bronx office. Item number 4, page 102, Sheltering Arms Daycare Center.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Administrations for Children's Services and Department of Citywide Administrative Services seeking the site selection and acquisition of an existing building located at 565 Morris Avenue, which is block 2332, to facilitate the continuation of services at the Harriet Tubman Daycare Center. This is a relatively new facility, been in operation since last fall on a short-term lease basis. The proposal is again to approve a 10-year lease term for this facility. The site is in the Melrose Common, excuse me, sorry. The site is on Morris at 149th Street. 49th Street is important east-west corridor in the South Bronx. Immediately to the south of the site, see Lincoln Hospital. To the east is the Hub Commercial Center, 3rd Avenue, 149th Street. And going to the west, we have the Bronx General Post Office, landmark Bronx General Post Office, and Ostos College, which is part of the CUNY system. And immediately to the west of the site is the Metro North right-of-way. The proposed site is zoned R72. It has a C14 overlay. It is portion of a mixed-use residential building. This is the facility here. This is actually 25-story structure, mixed-use building with approximately 20 retail storefronts and 500 dwelling units. The red striping of the site here is indicating the actual location of the building segment that is going to be used for the daycare center. This building segment is totally separate. There are no cross entries between the commercial mixed-use building and the daycare center. Access to the daycare center is on Morris Avenue to the right, and there is no cross from the building to daycare center. This facility, it's approximately 300 feet in length. It's lot 100 is 36-foot wide through lot, a portion of which is used as the recreation outdoor play area for the facility. This is located in the center of a fire lane. All of the spaces here are for the exclusive use of the daycare facility. Again, 25-story, 500 dwelling unit structure. This is your entryway to the daycare facility. This is a fire lane in the center and a pedestrian walkway to the left. And all of the entry and egress points, there are 3 entry egress points, all are along this fire alley here. Okay. Facility includes no rooftop recreation area, but this 500 square foot play area is also in the bed of the through lot, and again, for the exclusive use of the daycare facility clients. There's approximately 32,693 square feet of interior space and, 5,000 square feet of outdoor recreational space. All of the entry areas are along the pathway here. The ground floor has 3 classes for preschoolers, 1 classroom for school-age children, administrative offices and kitchen. 2nd story has 6 classrooms, 1 for toddlers, 5 for preschoolers. Each classroom has its own bathroom facility. The facility serves up to 120 preschoolers and 20 school-aged or after-school children. It's open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Excuse me. Most of the parents drop off and pick up their children. No parking as part of the facility. Large majority are pedestrian customers. The center provides a meal service, including breakfast, lunch, and snack daily. And the main educational service here is supervised playtime. They work also with the Early Learn program as the structured educational component. The center has 30 professional, paraprofessional, and support staff. When we made our visit to the facility, again, this is a relatively new facility, has none of the deferred maintenance concerns of some of our older, and this is the first lease for this particular facility. But as you can see here, there are child and parent or caregiver in the center of what's supposed to be a fire lane, and further to the rear you can see parked cars. There is no specifically delineated pedestrian walkway area, and we brought this to the attention of the ACS, the facility operators. They have committed to providing striping or other ways of identifying a pedestrian walkway. They have, and I think as part of your package, we share communication that went out to the staff and clientele indicating that this is not an area where cars are supposed to be driven, and we have committed to, prior to the approval of this application, to sort of double back and ensure that the requested changes in terms of this pedestrian safety issue will be addressed.
Questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Marin.
You're absolutely right, this is very uninviting. And there is concern, because that was the first couple of things I picked on, was the fact that there are cars parked back there, it's supposed to be a fire lane, and there is no sort of dedicated entrance for these children and their parents. And you indicated that to the left of this fire lane is sort of a walking path. There's no delineation, I know you said about striping, but I think that maybe a small 4-foot or so wrought iron fence to protect, I mean, a vehicle's a vehicle. So, I mean, I'm not saying a fence is gonna stop anything, but you have children that are walking with their parents. And if there's gonna be cars back here, not that they're supposed to be back there, I think that they need a more secure sort of entrance way to get in. And this doesn't say bring your child in.
Well, logistically, this is the only access point. Again, there is a separate pedestrian entryway here, but we are trying to, and ACS has agreed that they will address the issue, and we will have their solution before you, before we get to the final approval of the application.
Likewise, as you move towards the back, as you can see beyond the cars, there is the play area.
Right?
And it seems, I mean, is this part of, I don't have a scope of work, I don't have, maybe you distribute, I don't see it. Is there a scope of work for this area as well?
Well, again, this is almost a pristine new facility, so there is no current scope of work other than the agreement we had with ACS. Again, this is along that same lot, the through lot, and further back from the entry area. Again, this is an area where no cars are allowed or supposed to be involved. And this is the outdoor recreation play area. There is also a enclosed auditorium, assembly area, playhouse type of facility that also is exclusively for the use of the daycare clientele.
Other questions? Yes, Vice Chair Knuckles.
Dana, one of the pictures here has a profile that resembles you. Is that you?
This is my Alfred Hitchcock moment. We had the ACS doing the photography, and they erred in that regard.
So you were on the premises?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
how would you characterize the premises
Again, this
aside
is,
from what we see?
It is a beautiful, inviting, well-lit facility. The time that we were there, they were working with parents of the students. There's a separate sort of parents sitting and working area. The clientele here, large number of West African and Latino immigrant children, and it was a very inviting and a very positive facility.
I'm just curious, did this used to be a gymnasium? What was this space before it became the
I'm going to have to reach out to ACS, and we'll have it later in the review process. But this is completely newly renovated, basically like a gut facility that was prepared to the specifications of ACS.
Okay. Thank you.
Other comments from commissioners? The application is certified.
Let's now go to item number 5, page 114, proposed special permit to facilitate retail use and accessory signage at 19 East 72nd Street. Our presenter is Stephen Johnson of the Manhattan office. We're on 19 East 72nd Street, item number 5, page 114.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a private application by 19 East 72nd Street Corporation for the property located at that same address for a special permit pursuant to ZR Section 74711 to modify the use regulations to allow retail use in a residential district on the ground floor of the building. The building is located on the corner of Madison Avenue and 72nd Street and is divided by 2 zoning districts, the C51 district, which coincides with the special Madison Avenue Preservation District to a depth of 100 feet on either side of Madison, and an R10 district that coincides with the Parks Improvement District that is along East 72nd Street and the east side of Fifth Avenue. The special permit would allow an additional 1,836 square feet of retail on the ground floor of the building. The building is located in the center of our area map, the red outline. It's within the Upper East Side Historic District in Community District 8 of Manhattan. The project site is here. The Frick is here, obviously Central Park, St. James, and the Presbyterian Church is right up on that corner. The building is located within the special Madison Avenue Preservation District, which I will refer to as the MP, and that runs from 61st Street to 96th Street along Madison Avenue. It was created in 1973 with the goal to preserve and protect the unique character and architectural quality of Madison Avenue, to enhance street life by promoting specialty shops at the street level, introduce amenities related to the residential character of the area, and to achieve these goals, the MP regulates the use in bulk of developments and enlargements. Ground floor commercial uses are required on buildings with frontages on Madison Avenue. The building itself is in the C51 zoning district, which is a residential equivalent of an R10. This permits a maximum FAR of 10 for residential and a basic maximum FAR 4 for commercial use. Fifth Avenue and Park Avenue are also mapped with the R10 district, while the mid-blocks are mapped with the R8B district. Here we have front facade photos of the building on the corner of 72nd and Madison. This is the northwest corner of the building. This is the lobby frontage on 72nd Street. This is 72nd Street here, the frontage of the building with the lobby entrance. The building was completed in 1937. It is 17 stories with 34 dwelling units and has setbacks starting at the 14th floor. The building has ground floor commercial retail within the MP. Currently there are 2 stores. There's an art gallery located on the corner on this site here with the door, and then there's a shop that sells perfume with those 2 red awnings located there. Now East 72nd Street is 100 feet wide. It's a crosstown street that supports 4 lanes of traffic and has curbside parking. The M72 bus runs along the street. It is one of the main entrances into Central Park, leading into Terrace Drive. This entrance to the park is one of 3 locations in Central Park that has a staffed information kiosk. So you can see Central Park in the background here. The trees, this is 72nd Street. Directly next to the building is a building that's owned by the Kingdom of Morocco. These 2 buildings are landmark here. They were owned by the Lycée Français of New York, and they were sold to the Emir of Qatar in 2003. They are now being used for functions and events. This is the south side of the street. We have the Ralph Lauren women's store right here. This is this side too. You see there's not a lot of signage, it's very discreet. Ralph Lauren also owns this site here next to the women's store. Directly next to that is the Pope's New York City residence, and next to that is a building owned by the state of Spain. We have the ground floor frontage of the subject building right here. This is Madison here, and this is 72nd Street. This is where the commercial art gallery is in the lobby, and here's the door, and here's the dividing line between the C51 and the R10. There's 40 feet of frontage on the R10 there. There used to be a doctor's office within the C51 space. That has been vacant for 3 years. On the western edge was the superintendent's building or unit. They're being moved back behind this area next to the courtyard. So this is a close-up here of this piece right here. So this is the close-up, and there's the front of the building. So this gives you an idea of the existing site plan for the building with these 3 entrances along Madison right here with the blue dots, the lobby, and the proposed entrance into ground floor retail. So the applicant proposes to convert 1,836 square feet of the development site in the R10 district and combine it with 478 square feet of floor area located adjacent to the east in the C51 district for a single retail space for a total of 2,314 square feet. Only the development site portion of the proposed retail space requires the requested use modification. This is a little bit hard to see here, but this is actually hatched. It looks good on the paper, but not so much here. That's the hatched area there. The super unit would be back here by the courtyard. And now we have the proposed signage that has been approved by LPC. It consists of non-illuminated signage decals on 2 windows, 1 door, and 1 signpost in the R10 district for a total of 9.3 square feet of signage. There are no awnings proposed for the site, and there is no change to the landscaping. All the landscaping is staying. Included in your package are LPC's certificate of appropriateness and certificate of no effect authorizing the work necessary for the proposed development. The project is also subject to a continuing maintenance plan for the entire building. As I mentioned earlier, as part of the 74-711, the applicant is seeking to modify use regulations, and in order to grant the special permit, the CPC shall find that the use modification shall have minimal adverse effects on the conforming uses within the building and in the surrounding area. The commission may also prescribe appropriate additional conditions and safeguards which will enhance the character of the development of the zoning lot. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions? Yes, Commissioner Knight.
Stephen, I presume this is owned by the co-op board?
Yes, I believe so.
And do you know if the co-op board owns the other retail in the building?
I thought they did. I assume they did, but we'll get some clarification on the other 2 retail sites.
Other questions? Madam Secretary, could I make sure that the commissioners get a very informative email from Commissioner Efron, who unfortunately is unable to be here today, in which she laid out a series of questions, and I think that they will be helpful as we reflect on this when it comes, before it comes back to us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this application is certified.
Let's now move to item number 6, page 163, proposed special permit to facilitate additional parking spaces in an as-of-right building located at 220 Central Park South. Our presenter is Richard Suarez. Once again, item number 6, the project is 220 Central Park South.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a private application for a special permit pursuant to Sections 1345 and 13451 to allow a total of 64 accessory residential parking spaces within a 118-unit residential building at 220 Central Park South, and a joint certification by the City Planning Commission and the Department of Transportation pursuant to Section 2615 to allow more than 1 curb cut on the West 58th Street frontage of the proposed development. 220 Central Park South, the zoning law which is outlined in white, is located at the southern end of Central Park, at Columbus Circle here, which is the confluence of Hell's Kitchen, which is to the southwest, Lincoln Square to the northwest, and Midtown to the south and to the east. And it's also located in Manhattan Community District 5. The development outlined in red here, occupies the L-shaped portion of a larger zoning lot that is bounded by Central Park South to the north, 7th Avenue to the east, West 58th Street to the south, and Broadway and Columbus Circle to the west. The Columbus Circle roundabout and the Time Warner Center, which is a 2-towered hotel, residential, and office building atop an urban mall, is located directly to the west. And the Lincoln Center complex is just beyond, just off the map, to the northwest. Just shifting a little bit and zooming out a bit. So this particular stretch of blocks south of Central Park is rather residential and is generally characterized by 12 to 37-story buildings among shorter 4 to 9-story buildings, most of which have ground floor retail. The strong office presence is more obvious when you hit 57th as you move south. And as you know, this area has recently become home to a handful of very new tall residential towers rising to heights of 1,000 feet or more. Developments that appear on this map include the 157 developments in this L-shaped portion here, the Nordstrom Tower by Extel, which is just behind the project site, and other developments off the map include 432 Park Avenue to the east. The zoning lot and the development site are split between an R10H and a C51 zoning district. So here's the line cutting through it, here's the R10H, here's the C51, and it's located outside of the special Midtown district, which starts here mid-block between 57th and 58th. Both districts allow an FAR of 10 for residential use, except that commercial uses are not permitted in the R10H district, but are permitted in the C51 district. If you're wondering what the H in the R10H means, the suffix allows transient hotels, which is a commercial use not otherwise allowed in residential districts, but is allowed in this particular district. Both districts permit an increase in FAR from 10 to 12 through the Inclusionary Housing Program. Central Park South, which is to the north, is a wide street that carries both eastbound and westbound traffic. And then 7th Avenue is a wide street that carries southbound traffic, as is Broadway. And then West 58th Street is a narrow street that carries eastbound traffic. The Columbus Circle traffic, or the Columbus Circle roundabout, connects the two-way portion of Broadway to the southbound portion of Broadway. 8th Avenue, which carries traffic north, to the two-way portion, or the two-way Central Park West, and every other permutation you can imagine in this area. So just zooming in a bit more, the applicant proposes to develop this L-shaped portion, so again, this red portion here, of the zoning lot with a new 66-story mixed-use building containing 118 dwelling units and a 64-space attended accessory parking facility on the ground floor and second cellar levels. The proposed development occupies 27,608 square feet of a larger 91,704 square foot zoning lot, and is proposed to contain a total of 472,500 square feet of floor area. The development occupies 75 feet of frontage here on Central Park South and 200 feet of frontage here on West 58th Street. The portion of the proposed development on Central Park South, so it's 2 buildings, we have 1 building here and 1 building here. This portion, which is they've named the villa, will rise to approximately 240 feet, and then connected at the ground floor to the portion of the building on West 58th Street is a tower that will rise to 950 feet. And just view from Central Park looking south, here's the villa portion, so you have this little guy here, and then connected to the back is obviously this taller 950-foot tower. An as-of-right development containing 118 dwelling units and 24 accessory parking spaces is currently under construction. And while the proposed development is mostly as-of-right, the applicant is seeking a special permit to allow an increase in the number of parking spaces from the as-of-right amount of 24 spaces to 64 spaces. And they're also requesting a joint certification by the City Planning Commission and the Department of Transportation to allow 2 additional curb cuts on the narrow street frontage of the zoning lot. So zooming into the ground floor plan, so here's Central Park South, this is West 58th Street. A pedestrian entrance to the building will be provided on Central Park South. And then the vehicular entrances to the building, garage, and the motor court are proposed along West 58th Street. So here at the eastern end is a 58-foot by 80-foot motor court that is accessed by its own 22-foot curb cut. And this is for pickup and drop-off to the 2 residential entrances. So the lobby here is connected to the villa, is connected to the motor court, and then here's the entrance to the tower portion of the development right in here. About 129 feet to the west is the entrance to the proposed parking facility, which is also accessed by its own 22-foot curb cut. Vehicles traveling eastbound on West 58th Street, so coming this way, will turn left into the garage, they'll pass the gate, and they go down the ramp into one of the 6 reservoir spaces located on the ramp. The patron will be able then to access the lobby from the ramp through this waiting area in this corridor here, or walk back up to the street on foot. The attendant will then take the vehicle down to the second subcellar level using one of these 2 elevators. And then when a vehicle needs to be retrieved, the patron will wait in this designated waiting area here, and when the car comes up, they'll then come out and then turn left onto the eastbound traffic on West 58th Street. And then this is an elevation of the West 58th Street frontage. Here's the entrance to the motor court here, and then moving over to the west is the entrance to the proposed parking facility. In the second sub-cellar level, so here's the ground floor here, we're taking a section, we're looking in, we're to cut a little further in. So here's the ground floor here, we've got the motor court, and then an entrance to the garage. You have cellar, sub-cellar 1, and then sub-cellar 2. So here's the driveway, and then the elevators will take you down, boom, 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 into the second sub-cellar level. So there will be 64 parking spaces, 7 of which are elevated in stackers, and the remaining 57 are on the surface. These accessory parking spaces would replace the 173 parking spaces that previously existed on the development site portion of the zoning lot. Here's a rendering, again, of the 58th Street frontage. Here's the entrance to the proposed garage. And then over here is the motor court entrance. So first I'll go through the special permit, and then I'll go through the commission certification. The Manhattan Core parking regulations allow a maximum number of accessory residential parking spaces equal to 20% of the number of dwelling units. Since the proposed development will contain 118 dwelling units, 24 spaces are permitted as of right. Within the Manhattan Core, a zoning lot may provide more residential parking spaces than the as of right by special permit. As such, the applicant requests a special permit to allow 40 additional spaces in the proposed garage for a total of 64 parking spaces. The special permit requires that the applicant demonstrate that the requested number of off-street parking spaces is reasonable and not excessive in relation to recent trends in residential development and the provision of off-street parking in close proximity to the proposed garage. To do so, the applicant, using methodology provided by the department, examined the change in residential units and residential parking spaces between 2005 and 2018, the applicant's build year, within 1/3 mile of the site. So here's the zoning lot outlined in red. Here's third mile. We see a lot of it captures Central Park, but we do get to CD7, 4, 5. The red are parking change sites, so sites where there's an increase or decrease in parking spaces. The blues are residential developments that did not provide any parking. And then the mixed red and blue, such as the development site here, are residential developments that also provided parking spaces. The study showed that during this look-back period, without the proposed development, the ratio of new residential parking spaces to new residential units was 9.78%. With the addition of 64 parking spaces and 118 residential units, the applicant found that the ratio would increase to 10.26%. The applicant's discussion of findings, along with the discussion of conditions relating to size, access, and safety of the proposed garage is included in your briefing packages. Then, in addition to the requested special permit, a joint certification by the City Planning Commission and the Department of Transportation pursuant to Section 2615 is proposed, or is requested. The provisions of 2615, which only apply in R9 and R10 districts, normally permit only one curb cut along the narrow street frontage of the zoning lot. So again, here's the zoning lot in white, so it kind of jogs around a little bit. And the zoning lot has frontage along 2 wide streets, so Central Park South here and Broadway, and West 58th Street is the only narrow street frontage. And as you know, the applicant is proposing 2 curb cuts on West 58th Street, one to access the parking and one here to access the motor court. These 2 curb cuts would replace 3 curb cuts that on the same stretch of the frontage that previously served two parking garages. There was a 129 space parking garage here and a 44 space garage that served 2 residential developments on this side. So to the west of the development site, and from the proposed parking curb cut, but still in the zoning lot is a 12-foot curb cut that serves a residential trash storage area for this residential development on the west side of the block. These are the 3 existing curb cuts today. These 2 serve what was a public parking facility, and this served the 16-foot curb cut served a residential parking facility here. Because of the existence of this curb cut, though, Section 2615 would normally, or does not normally permit any additional curb cuts on this frontage. There are 2 other curb cuts on the block, but not on the zoning lot. One serving an active FDNY firehouse, and one serving a parking facility for this residential development here. But because they do not have any frontage along the zoning lot, so again, this jogs around, their presence do not restrict the development's ability to locate the one permitted curb cut on the street. It is this curb cut here that's restricting these proposed curb cuts. Zoning lots in excess of 30,000 square feet may, however, be permitted additional curb cuts along a narrow street, provided that the Commission and DOT certify that such additional curb cuts will not result in conflict between pedestrian and vehicular circulation and will result in good overall site plan. The zoning lot measures 91,704 square feet and thus is eligible to seek such joint certification. And the applicant's discussion of findings regarding this proposed certification, including a transportation assessment, is attached to the agreement packages. Thank you.
Questions about this application? Commissioner Levin?
It's pretty unusual to see two projects by Robert A.M. Stern on the same agenda. This one is definitely not an affordable housing project.
It is benefiting from the bonus with offsite.
Well, that was actually one of my questions. But it's, you know, it's also just intriguing to look at the design for Edwin's Place, which was agenda item number 1, and the design here, and there are an awful lot of commonalities. It's really kind of, it's nice to see affordable, repeating what the chair said before, it's really nice to see affordable housing being built to, not quite these standards, but with a similar aesthetic. Where are, I know it's not part of this application, but where are the inclusionary units that are generating the bonus here?
They're all in CD5. They are, I have the 3 addresses, and I do know the amount that generated. I don't know the number of units, but 1 East 35th Street, 439 West 53rd Street, and 424 West 55th Street.
Okay, and then my other, much more local question on this is how it's proposed that immediately south across 58th Street is going to be a Nordstrom's?
Correct, yeah.
How is this going to relate to the Nordstrom's loading dock? I would imagine that's a pretty serious and heavily targeted loading operation for Nordstrom's.
Right, I believe, I'm not sure the exact location. I believe it would be about 50 or 60 feet long. We can find that information if it's not in the package already.
Yeah, I didn't see it. But yeah, it'd be helpful for us to consider that sidewalk intervention along with these 2 curb cuts.
Sure.
Commissioner Cantor?
What would the applicant do if one of the
One of the
curb cuts
curb cuts were denied.
were
Right. I am not sure. I will have to ask the applicant myself. Right, but if one were to, I'm not sure if the applicant has considered that. I mean, right now, the DOB has allowed some consolidation of curb cuts. So this application is really meant to fix everything and make it, and really memorialize the locations. It would go from 3 to, we'll have the applicant follow up and prepare for that public hearing.
Vice Chair Nichols?
Thank you. Richard, regarding the motor court, which would be an area where deliveries were received, right?
I believe it's more for
Or drop-
passenger pickup and drop off, but I'm sure if someone's
Okay, but
coming in or-
strangers would routinely access.
Probably.
So how, there's an impediment there, there's a gate. How would that be operated to give access to the comings and goings of, into the motor court?
I'm not fully sure. I would imagine that it's open during the day and closed at night, but I can ask the applicant to
Okay.
find out. But it is intended for residents.
Other
But
questions?
cabs, et cetera, cars would come in and out, right?
I mean, mostly taxis, I think, and
Yeah,
personal
for the,
vehicles.
yeah, for the convenience of residents. I'm just wondering how that would work.
Other questions? Okay, the application is certified.
Richard, you have the next item. We're on item number 7, page 268, 200 Water Street. Proposed authorization to facilitate an upgrade to several plazas and to infill an existing arcade. 200 Water Street, page 268, and Richard is again our presenter.
This is a private application for an authorization pursuant to section 91841 of the Special Lower Manhattan District to allow the infill of an arcade and the improvement to 2 existing public plazas at 200 Water Street in Lower Manhattan. 200 Water Street, which is on this block here, right here, is located in the financial district of Manhattan, just west of the South Street Seaport. Here's Fulton Street here, here's Water Street here. So to the east, here's the piers, here's the FDR Drive, Brooklyn Bridge just to the north. Again, located at the intersection of Fulton and Water Streets. The site stands at the northern end of the Water Street corridor, and which is characterized by high-density office buildings constructed on superblocks ranging from 15 to 21.6 FAR. And again, to the north is the Brooklyn Bridge, the piers of here's Pier 17 in the Southern Seaport neighborhood, and this is Southbridge Towers just to the north. The site is located in a C64 zoning district within the Special Lower Manhattan District, which permits an FAR of 10 for all uses, bonusable to 12 through the provision of a public plaza or the inclusionary housing bonus. To the south and to the east, so here's a C64 district that kind of jogs here and continues over. To the south and to the east are the high-density C55, C53, and C69 districts. And then to the northeast is the contextual C62A district mapped over the majority of the South Seaport neighborhood. In 2016, the City Council adopted a zoning text amendment to the Special Lower Manhattan District, affecting an area outlined in here in purple, centered around Water Street and bounded by Whitehall Street to the south, South Street to the east, Fulton Street to the north, and Pearl and South William Streets to the west, which was named the Water Street Subdistrict in the Special Lower Manhattan District. The text amendment, as you may recall, allowed the infill of arcades, so those are shown in red and blue, allowed the infill of arcades, the improvements of plazas by the improvements of plazas by certification or authorization. So those in blue are by certification, those in red are by, those in blue are authorization, those in red are certification. Allowed cafes and arcades by certification, and events and tables and chairs in plazas and arcades as of right. The text set forth very detailed standards for the use and design of any proposed infill and required the full upgrade of plazas on a zoning lot in compliance with the requirements for new bonus public plazas. Infill also requires full compliance with the building code standards for flood resilience, which is normally not required for many of these buildings that were constructed before 1983. 200 Water Street occupies, so this is the building here, occupies the majority of the block bounded by Fulton Street. So north, I'm north now. Fulton Street, Pearl Street, John Street, and Water Street. With the exception of two out parcels here that are occupied by a 2-story and 3-story building. I think there's a Starbucks on the ground floor here and a Japanese restaurant on the ground floor here. The building was constructed in 1973 with the variance by the Board of Standards and Appeals, which was granted in 1969 to allow an additional floor area allowance of 143,559 square feet, or about 4.3 FAR. The site also contains 3 bonus plazas. There's a 2,600 square foot plaza here on Fulton Street. There's a 527-foot plaza here at the corner of Pearl and John Street, and an 883 square foot plaza here at the corner of Water and John Streets. These plazas were provided at a time where no amenities were required for plazas, although they have historically contained rather quirky pieces of art. So colored seating and fabrics used to be located here with the pool, and then there's a cool digital clock on the wall right above Starbucks. That is, if it's not in operation yet, it will be in operation in the next coming months. Also along Fulton Street here is a 3,222 square foot arcade, which also generated a floor area bonus. The building was originally constructed as a commercial office building, but was converted to residential use in 1998. The building had a stint as a dorm for New York University until 2009, when the units then became rental apartments. The site stands at the gateways to the South Street Seaport, which is to the east here, and the Water Street corridor to the south. Pedestrians coming from Fulton Center off the map, when they go to the seaport, they usually continue along the sidewalk, and they don't use the plaza or the arcade. And when those that are cutting to Water Street, they usually continue on the sidewalk, and then at the last moment they'll cut across either around this corner or around this corner portion of the arcade. You'll notice that the building line of the building to the west doesn't line up with the arcade here, so pedestrians don't often make the effort to go that way. They'll just come straight and then cut across. And then flipping over to a photo of the building, so the arcade lines the entirety of the Water Street frontage here. There are 5 bays, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in the center 3 bays, it's a double height portion. Along the ground floor are retail uses that front. It's actually a Dwayne Reade today. And on the second floor are residential units that face into the dark arcade. The Fulton Street Plaza, as you can see here, contains these quirky colored chairs, these fixed chairs, and this kind of adult jungle gym system that up until 2012 were covered in different colored fabrics. Here's some views from the arcade, and of the arcade. This is from the arcade looking west along Fulton Street. Again, you see it doesn't line up with anything. Here's looking from Fulton Street down towards the seaport. This is then from the arcade again, looking east to the seaport, and then again across the street from the seaport, looking directly at the building. Again, looking from on Fulton Street, looking east to the seaport. Then at the corner of Pearl and John Street is this empty plaza. Well, here is empty. Here, it contains some movable tables and chairs associated with the deli, which is allowed as of right in the Water Street area. Again, a view further over, showing this empty arcade. Nothing really to write home about. And then also at the corner of Water and John Street is the plaza that was upgraded in 2012 pursuant to a design change certification granted by the chairperson at the time that allowed a full improvement of the plaza to approximate or become greater in accordance with the public plaza standards. You'll see the digital clock that I'm referencing. This is a more recent photo showing it's almost in operation and it's being fixed. But here is improved with a couple of trees, or a tree, planting, fixing movable seating, and public space signage. So again, here's the arcade, here's the plaza along Fulton Street, plaza at Pearl and John, and the plaza at Water and John Street. Here are the colored chairs, the jungle gym. Here's a pool that has been concreted over and fenced off. And then again, this plaza here is pretty empty. The arcade is about 30 feet deep by about 105 feet long, and the plaza measures in depth from 23 feet to 29 feet, and it has about 100 feet of frontage along Fulton Street. The applicant's proposal involves a horizontal enlargement, so shown here, into the Fulton Street arcade with retail uses and a full upgrade of the Fulton Street Plaza and the Pearl and John Street Plaza. Zooming into the Fulton Street portion of the project, again, there's a 3,222 square foot arcade here, a 2,600 square foot plaza here. And again, 30 feet deep, 23 to 29 feet deep. So the applicant proposes to infill approximately 2,922 square feet of the arcade, leaving approximately 300 square feet open in this corner arcade condition for pedestrian circulation to and from Water Street. The proposed plaza improvements and limits of arcade infill were designed in a way to preserve the existing pedestrian pathways around this corner onto Water Street, but also to allow pedestrians to percolate into and through the plaza. The proposed infill will contain a minimum of 2 retail establishments. There are 2 here, but it can have 2 or 3. They might chop this up a little more. And will achieve a minimum of 70% transparency along each of the building walls. The corner arcade here, at its narrowest point, will have a clearance of 10 feet and will extend for the full height of the arcade of 18 feet. The corner column will also be thinned out. So here, a square column, they've thinned it out a bit here. And again, this has about an area of 300 square feet, and an entrance to the retail establishment on the corner will be located onto the corner arcade addition. The plaza here on Fulton Street will have 6 trees, 2 of which are flush to grade, and 2 in addition to what's required by the text. And planters, we're planting and low planting, about 6 inches tall, planting bed. A mix of backed and backless benches will both face the street and be arranged, so both facing the street and then arranged facing one another to allow a different variety of users, solitary users, and also social interaction. And movable tables and chairs will be located near the building wall beneath the shade trees. And then there's also a drinking fountain here, and new public space signage along each of the 3 frontages. At the corner of Water and Fulton Street is a vertical sculpture that is proposed and that would serve as a marker of this gateway to let passersby or people coming from further up Fulton Street or further down Water Street know that something is happening on this corner. Again, you've actually seen these last year. This project hasn't changed since last year. So it's really a presentation of what you saw already. Here's here's an image of the plaza and arcade as it is today, and here's what's proposed. And then again, a view from the seaport looking into the building, and here, as you can see, again, just a vast improvement over what is there today. And again, the second floor is also being filled in. Here's the openings here, and that will be filled in with residential uses, which is permitted by the zone test. Again, at the corner of John and Pearl Street is this empty plaza with these tables and chairs. Again, it's really just an extension of the sidewalk. No amenities. Again, it was developed at a time where no amenities were required. It has about 17 feet of frontage along Pearl Street, about 40.5 feet of frontage here. This is the marker or the edge of the bonus portion of it. Only portions that are 10 feet or deeper can be considered bonus plazas, so where it's less than 10 feet, it's not considered bonus plaza, but it just continues on as paved area. And this here is a deli that fronts onto the plaza. The applicant proposes to improve the plaza. We'll have 2 trees here, one flush to grade, one in a low planter, which again 6 inches tall. Back benches facing John Street, movable tables and chairs along the retail frontage. Of course, litter receptacle and new public space signage along each of the frontage. And I forgot to mention both for the Fulton Street Plaza and for this plaza, we'll also have improved lighting, meeting full standards for plazas. Again, this is a view of the proposed improvements, which is a great improvement over that. Since 200 Water Street is located within Area B of the Water Street Subdistrict on map 9 of the special district, so the purple outlines what is the Water Street Subdistrict. Area A, which is the certification areas, are in red. Area B are the authorization areas, which are in blue. Infill of the arcade is only permitted by authorization pursuant to Section 91.841. The authorization requires that the proposed infill meets the requirements for use, length, depth, height, transparency, and number of establishments set forth in Section 91.831. The authorization also requires an upgrade to all plazas on the zoning lot, so normally it's 1, 2, and 3, except that it allows the plaza that was upgraded pursuant to a prior design change certification to remain as previously approved. Since the water in John Street Plaza was upgraded in 2012 pursuant to a previously granted chairperson certification or design changes, that plaza may remain, and only the Fulton Street and this corner plaza need to be upgraded. The commission must also make findings related to unobstructed pathways and visual and physical connections to and from Water Street. And the applicant's response to those findings are attached to your briefing packages. And while the infill of a bonus arcade would normally create a floor area noncompliance, the area of any arcade infill permitted in this area by certification or authorization is not considered floor area and does not reduce the zoning law's permitted floor area. The authorization also requires that where a building that benefited from a BSA special permit or variance, that the application be sent to the BSA for determination that the proposal does not conflict with the BSA's original findings in granting of that approval. The BSA was referred this application by the department, who issued a letter dated April 14th, 2017, indicating that the board has no objection to the proposed changes. Concurrent with this application, the applicant is also seeking a chairperson certification to locate No Binner Cafe here on the Fulton Street Plaza among these flush to grade trees. That application will be referred by the department alongside this application for an authorization.
I like your technical zoning term, nothing to write home about. Questions from commissioners? Okay, then this matter is referred to the community board for 45 days.
Let's now go to item number 8, page 359, 661 8th Avenue signage text amendment. Just want to note for the record that Commissioner Knight is recusing on this project. We're on page 359, item number 8, 661 8th Avenue signage text amendment, which will facilitate illuminated advertising signage. And our presenter is Annie White.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As Jackie said, this is an application for a text amendment to signage provisions for a specific site at the corner of 42nd Street and 8th Avenue in the Special Midtown District, located in Community District 4 of the Borough of Manhattan. The applicant for this project is 42nd and 8th Avenue Owner, LLC. The site, located at 661 8th Avenue, is within both the theater subdistrict of the Special Midtown District and the perimeter area of the Special Clinton District. The text amendment proposes to modify signage provisions to allow C6-7 signage rules to apply in an underlying C6-4 district. The project site is currently improved by a 2-story retail building with accessory non-illuminated signage. The project site is located here in this bird's eye view by the red dashed line. The site is located directly north across 42nd Street from Port Authority Bus Terminal, outlined here in the blue, and just west of Times Square. This is an area map with the land use. The C6-4 zoning allows for a base FAR of 10 on the site, which can be increased to 12 pursuant to the Special Clinton District Inclusionary Housing regulations. It's also relevant to note here that you can see all 3 corners of the 42nd and 8th Avenue intersection. The other 3 corners all have the C6-7 underlying district.
Here are some additional site photos of the site. The two-story retail, which is the Dwayne Reade, can be seen in the photo on the top left. And you can see the other three corners of the intersection all have large signage as permitted by the C67 underlying regulations, including the Port Authority bus terminal, which is in the photo on the bottom left. So for the proposed development, the applicant seeks this text amendment to facilitate the installation of an illuminated advertising sign on the roof of the existing two-story retail building, which is the signage you can see in this rendering with the Apple Music sign, just as an example. The proposed signage would face southeast into Times Square. Under the current C64 signage regulations, only accessory signs are allowed. Both illuminated and non-illuminated signs have a 500 square foot or 5 times the street frontage of the zoning lot size limit, whichever is less. Additionally, signs may not exceed a height of 40 feet above curb level. The proposed C67 signage regulations would allow accessory and advertising signage. There is no size limitations on both accessory and advertising, nor any limits on heights above the curb level. The applicant believes this is the appropriate signage zoning designation on the site to match the other 3 corners of the intersection. The text amendment will create a new section to the theater subdistrict, which specifies that the signage may not produce sound, and any illuminated signs may only face both wide streets, so diagonally into the intersection, facing into Times Square, or face one of the wide streets. This is to avoid any illumination facing west or north into the residential Clinton neighborhood. The new zoning section does have specific locational requirements, which is the corner lot portions of zoning lots bounded by 2 wide streets on the west side of 8th Avenue within the 8th Avenue corridor of the theater subdistrict. So this 8th Avenue corridor of the theater subdistrict is what's outlined here in the blue shaded area. The theater subdistrict only extends west of 8th Avenue between 42nd and 45th Street, and the only wide street perpendicular to 8th Avenue is 42nd Street. Here is one more rendering of the site looking north along 8th Avenue, where you can see the proposed signage peeking out beyond the Port Authority bus terminal. This concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Levin.
Thank you, Annie. I have a question I don't expect you to have an answer to, but it's a question in my own mind as this application goes through the public review process. You know, this northwest corner of this intersection is in fact different from the other 3 because it's the gateway to the Special Clinton District beyond. And so I think that while you might look at a map and say, oh, wait, this is the only corner without a sign like this, we should just plop another sign down here. There may very well be good planning reasons why that is the case. That site was meant in the Hudson Yards rezoning back in 2005 to be a development site. It's quite a large and prominent one, but the difficulty then, at least, was that the building owner was able to, the rents produced by the existing painted billboard on the side of the building, combined with the Dwayne Reade, were such that there was no, and one of the unique commercial tenants in the taller building, meant that there was no incentive for the developer to redevelop the site. So my concern here would be, in addition to the, is it right to put a big sign facing into the Special Clinton District, is whether this is going to further discourage redevelopment of that site to a more productive land use. Will it simply incentivize, improve the revenue stream for the owner without adding anything to land use in the area?
I can certainly have the applicant further expand on that. I know that they have been in conversation with Community Board 4, and that's why there is the specific kind of directional requirements and locational requirements to be very particular that this doesn't expand into the Special Clinton District any further. As far as the potential redevelopment, we do recognize that there is the opportunity to redevelop a larger zoning lot, which is why we've only narrowed the ability of the provision to apply within that corner lot portion of the site, which is defined by 100 feet in from the intersection. And we did look at the reasonable worst case does look at a further development of the site and what that would mean for the signage.
No, I think, yeah, thank you, that's helpful. I think we just have to ask ourselves what the public purpose is in doing this. I can see the private purpose.
Other comments? Okay, well, this application will be referred to the community board and the borough president for 45 days.
We'll ask Commissioner Knight to come back into Spector Hall. And the next item is item number 9, page 367, 10 East 30th Street parking garage, which involves 2 proposed authorizations to renew a previously approved special permit. Our presenter is Sarah Elmore. We're on page 367, 10 East 30th Street parking garage.
Hey, good afternoon, Commissioners. This is an application by Aero Parking Corporation requesting 2 authorizations to extend the term of a special use permit granted in 1957 for an attended public parking garage with more than 150 spaces located at 10 East 30th Street in Manhattan Community District 5 for 2 additional 10-year terms. The site is located in the Nomad neighborhood of Manhattan, and uses in the surrounding area are primarily mid-rise commercial and mixed commercial and residential uses, with some areas of light manufacturing. The site is zoned C52 with base maximum commercial and residential FARs of 10. The areas surrounding the site are zoned C52, C53, C64, C64A, and M16. The site is situated on an approximately 7,200 square foot interior lot located on the south side of East 30th Street, on a block that is bounded by East 30th Street to the north, Madison Avenue to the east, East 29th Street to the south, and 5th Avenue to the west. East 30th Street has one-way eastbound traffic, Madison Avenue has one-way northbound traffic, East 29th Street has one-way westbound traffic, and 5th Avenue has one-way southbound traffic. The site is 1 block north of the Madison Square North Historic District and is bordered by the Church of Transfiguration, which is an LPC designated individual landmark directly to the south. The site is served by the N and R trains at 28th Street and Broadway, and the 6th train at 28th Street and Park Avenue South. In October of 1957, the City Planning Commission granted a special use permit to allow the use and operation of a public parking garage with a capacity of 150 or more parking spaces for a term of 25 years. The special use permit was amended in 1978 to extend the term of the special use permit for an additional 10 years to expire on October 9, 1992. More recently, the site was granted an authorization to extend the term of the special use permit for an additional 10 years from October 9, 1992 to October 9, 2002. The site currently is developed with a 7-level attended public parking garage with approximately 38,000 square feet of zoning floor area, and it rises to a height of approximately 55 feet. The existing garage contains 188 parking spaces and 10 reservoir spaces. The first level of the garage contains 10 reservoir spaces and 6 parking spaces, and levels 2 through 7 and the roof contain 26 parking spaces each. You can also find 19 spaces for bicycles on the 4th floor, and there's signage at the entrance of the garage indicating that such bike parking is located within the garage. 2 elevators move between levels. The elevators are located right over here. Here are the 10 reservoir spaces that are located on the first level and the parking spaces for the 6 parking spaces. There is also a 495 square foot enclosed waiting area for customers to wait to pick up their vehicles. And the facility is accessed via a 44-foot wide curb cut on East 30th Street, which provides for 3 lanes of ingress and 1 lane of egress. And that curb cut is located right here. No changes to the garage structure are proposed as a part of the first application to extend the term of the special use permit from 2002 to 2012. However, the applicant intends to make minor modifications to the garage pursuant to the plans and drawings submitted as a part of the second application to extend the term of the special use permit from 2012 to 2002 in order to improve traffic flow and circulation, improve safety within the garage, and to bring the garage into greater compliance with current rules and regulations for public parking garages. Such improvements include additional safety signage, a new light and sound garage exit alarm, a new convex mirror at the exit lane, new wheel stops with yellow stripes, new speed bumps at all lanes entering and exiting the garage. And in addition, the applicant proposes to reduce the number of reservoir spaces from 10 to 6 to improve the functionality of the reservoir spaces and to reflect the actual operation of the garage. The 4 reservoir spaces that are proposed to be eliminated, if we go back here, you can see right up here, now that space will be left for temporary parking. They're located outside of the entrance lanes for the garage and would not meet the current regulations for reservoir spaces under today's requirements, as a car that is waiting in those reservoir spaces would need to reverse in order to reach the elevators to get up to the different levels. The applicant is also proposing to add an additional door to the enclosed waiting area, such that customers can directly access the interior of the garage for vehicle pickup instead of exiting the waiting area onto the street and re-entering the garage along the side of the exit lane. The applicant has also filed plans with the Department of Buildings to replace and upgrade the entire existing vehicle barrier system along the interior perimeter of the garage. This will bring the loading capacity and impact resistance on the vehicle barrier system into compliance with the current building code and improve safety within the garage. Moreover, the applicant will be replacing the existing guardrails along the north face of the garage to bring the height and loading capacity into compliance with the current building code. The applicant, Aero Parking Corporation, is seeking 2 authorizations pursuant to section 11411 to extend the term of a special use permit granted in 1957 for an attended public parking garage with more than 150 parking spaces for 2 additional 10-year terms. Section 11411 allows by authorization non-conforming uses that were granted approval for a specific term of years prior to the 1961 zoning resolution to request a continuance of that use for 1 or more terms of up to 10 years, so long as no limitation on the use was imposed at the time of the original approval. The term of the special use permit granted in 1957 last expired on October 9, 2002. The first requested authorization would extend the term of the special use permit for a term of 10 years from October 9, 2002 to October 9, 2012. And the second requested authorization would extend the term of the special use permit for an additional 10-year term from October 9, 2012 to October 9, 2022. The applicant's discussion of conditions can be found in the briefing materials. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Swett.
What walked them up to the need to, since 2002, what was the catalyst to make them come in for an application now?
I can ask the applicant what exactly brought them in. It may be that they were just unaware that they needed to update this renewal, but I can get more
Some
information from the
clarification.
applicant.
I can imagine since 1957, probably the current ownership was not aware of the need to update it, but just if we can get clarification.
Yeah, definitely.
One can also imagine that it might have been the need to get bank financing and
Correct.
didn't realize. Yes, Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, I guess my real question is, if the permit expired 15 years ago, can we even do this? We have other contexts in which if a, permit is lapsed for a certain period of time, you're kind of no longer protected by the terms of the permit. I realize the conundrum here probably is that if they came in, if they tried to start from scratch and get a new special permit, you couldn't do it, right? Because the Manhattan Core rules have changed and garages like this are no longer, new garages like this are no
That's
longer
correct.
permitted, right?
So there's 2 different sections to be able to kind of renew, special permits that were granted pre-1961. Section 1143 requires that you come in prior to the expiration, whereas there is not the same requirement per section 11411, and it's kind of been interpreted in the past by the previous projects that have gone through that we allow them to come in post-expiration to renew these uses.
Have we done it as far into the past as 15 years?
I'm not sure, but I can check to see how long the longest term of expiration has occurred.
I mean, the difficulty here is that the garage is there, it's a reality, so I understand the need to work with it, but it is just, it's an unusual procedural situation for us
Yeah,
to be
I'll see what in the past, like how far past expiration we've done these renewals, but I'm not sure right off the top of my head now.
Thank you.
Yes,
Just to
Commissioner Swett.
follow up, why is it a 10-year term and why not go 2 15-year terms? Are we limited to 10-year terms?
Per the text, it's a maximum of 10 years that you can request. That being said, there's no limitation on the amount of renewals that you request.
Got
So
it.
they could request for 5 terms of 10 years each, if they so chose.
Do we have, well, we're currently in the second term, so I guess we have the, right, okay. Thank you.
Other questions? I just have two questions based on the write-up. One out of curiosity, what is the fee for the bicycle parking?
I am not sure, but I can find that information out for you.
And then the second is, it mentioned that the garage would be put into greater compliance. It would be helpful to know in which ways the garage, even after the proposed work, would still remain in non-compliance.
And I think, for the most part, and I can confirm, but from what I understand, the only thing that will not be in compliance post this approval with all the safety improvements that are being made will be the amount of reservoir spaces, which is just being reduced to reflect what's actually able to be done in this space. But I will confirm to see if there's anything else.
Okay, well then, this application will be referred to the community board for 45 days.
Thank you.
Let's now go to item number 10, page 400, proposed minor modification to the Baltic Street Urban Renewal Plan to facilitate mixed-use development, including affordable housing. And for the record, Commissioner De La Hoz is recusing on this item. Our presenter is Connie Chan. We're on item number 10, page 400, 125th Avenue.
Good afternoon. This is an application by the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development seeking a minor change to the Baltic Street Urban Renewal Plan to eliminate the existing 40-foot height limit with respects to sites 3A, 3B, and 3C of the Baltic Street Urban Renewal Area in order to facilitate a new mixed-use development comprised of commercial and residential uses, including affordable housing in Park Slope, Brooklyn, Community District Number 6. So this is a land use map of North Park Slope, and just to orient everyone to where we're looking at, the proposed development site is outlined here in the black dots. We have Fifth Avenue, which runs north-south. It's a major commercial corridor in Park Slope. We have Fourth Avenue, running parallel to Fifth Avenue right here. It's also a major commercial corridor. It's a truck route. And we have Flatbush Avenue that runs here. So we have Barclays Center is located just north of the site. Gowanus is located over here to the west, and we have Prospect Park located over here. So again, Fifth Avenue serves as a primary commercial corridor. The Fifth Avenue corridor is zoned R6A with a C14 commercial overlay. This zoning district allows for residential, community facility, and commercial uses and has a maximum permitted building height of 75 feet. Aside from the proposed development site, which is outlined in the black dots here, the Fifth Avenue corridor is comprised primarily of 3 to 4 story mixed-use buildings with ground floor commercial uses and residential uses on upper floors. Fourth Avenue, again, is a major corridor, and it's zoned R8A with a C24 commercial overlay in this area. This zoning district allows for residential, community facility, and commercial uses and has a maximum permitted building height of 125 feet. This area is comprised of 3 to 4 story residential and mixed-use buildings, some newer 12-story mixed-use buildings, 2-story industrial and commercial buildings, some auto-oriented uses, and community facilities. The mid-blocks between 4th and 5th Avenues are zoned R6B, which is a residential district that has a maximum permitted building height of 55 feet. The side streets contain 2 to 4 story row homes. Some community facilities in the area include a number of local churches, as well as PS 133, which is located right here, which is an elementary school. There are a variety of public transportation options in the area. So as I mentioned, Barclays Center is just north here, so you have a number of train lines, the 2, 3, 4, 5, B, Q, D, and R. The Bergen Street Station is right here on Flatbush Avenue, where you have access to the 2, 3, and there's access to the R train at Union Street and 4th Avenue. In addition, the B63 bus runs north-south along 5th Avenue, and it has a stop right here on Douglas Street. So I'll point out the urban renewal area on this map, which is blocks 940 and 943. So it's these 2 blocks right here. So it's bounded by Baltic Street to the north, Douglas Street to the south, 4th Avenue to the west, and 5th Avenue to the east. So we take a closer look at the urban renewal area right here. The Baltic Street Urban Renewal Plan was adopted in 1981. Some of the specific sites within the urban renewal area are as follows. So site number 1, so again, that's the site of PS 133. That's an elementary school that was rehabilitated. Sites 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D, which are located here in gray, and also this site right here. These sites were targeted for new construction of owner-occupied housing. and following the adoption of the Urban Renewal Plan, multifamily residential buildings with condo units and three-family, three-story homes were built on these sites. Sites 3A, 3B, and 3C are located right here along the Fifth Avenue frontage, and these sites are the subject of this application. Following the adoption of the Urban Renewal Plan, a supermarket and an accessory parking lot were built on these three sites, 3A, 3B, and 3C. When the Urban Renewal Plan was adopted in 1981, this area was zoned R6. R6 is a non-contextual zoning district that does not cap building heights. Design controls in section C3A of the Urban Renewal Plan included a 40-foot height limit for new residential buildings in the urban renewal area. This height limitation was intended to ensure that new construction of the owner-occupied housing planned for sites 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D would be developed in a manner that was compatible with the surrounding residential area, which consisted of low-rise housing. In 1993, as part of the Park Slope North rezoning, this area was rezoned from R6 to the contextual zoning districts that exist today in order to help ensure that future development was in context with the existing built form in the area. The proposed minor change to the Baltic Street Urban Renewal Plan would eliminate the existing 40-foot height limitation with respects to sites 3A, 3B, and 3C of the Baltic Street Urban Renewal area in order to facilitate a new mixed-use development, including commercial and residential uses that conforms with the use regulations and complies with the bulk regulations of the underlying zoning. So here's an aerial view of the urban renewal area. I'll speak a little bit about the proposed development site. So again, it's located here and it's sited on block 943, lot 240. This lot has a total area of approximately 69,700 square feet with 360 feet of frontage along Fifth Avenue and 190 feet of frontage along Baltic Street. The northern portion of the site is currently occupied by a 36,000 square foot grocery store. It's a one-story Key Food. The southern portion of the site is occupied by a 100-space accessory parking lot, which is located here. A 40-foot sewer easement corresponding to a portion of Butler Street that was demapped in 1982 runs across the development site from Fifth Avenue to the terminus of the current Butler Street. So this section right here is the location of this sewer easement. This zoning lot, it's worth noting, is split by a zoning district boundary. So go back to the land use map, as you can see, there's a portion of the site that's zoned R6A C14, and then this portion of the site is zoned R6B C14. So some photos of the existing conditions. This is a view from Fifth Avenue of that one-story grocery store. This is a view kind of straight on from Fifth Avenue, looking at the development site, looking at the sewer easement. The grocery store is to the right, and the parking lot is to the left. Here are some photos of Fifth Avenue where you can see kind of these 3 to 4 story mixed-use buildings I described that have ground floor commercial uses and residential uses above. This is a view of the sidewalk looking at the site. Parking lot is located here. Here's the grocery store. This is the northern part of the site where you can see some of the residential buildings. And here is the back of the site. And in this photo here, you can see some of that low-rise housing that was part of the owner-occupied housing that was intended as part of the urban renewal plan. The proposed development is an approximately 175,195 square foot mixed-use development with an FAR of 2.5. The project would consist of approximately 126,747 square feet of residential use, which is an FAR of 1.82, with a total of 164 units of housing. Would have 48,448 square feet of commercial space, which is an FAR of 0.7, as well as accessory parking. Pursuant to a regulatory agreement with HPD, a minimum of 25% of the residential units will be affordable to households earning between 40% and 100% of the area median income. The commercial uses will include a supermarket of approximately 22,000 square feet. The project will consist of 2 buildings. The north building, which is this building here, will contain approximately 120 residential units and approximately 59,000 gross square feet of commercial space. It will rise to a maximum of approximately 72 feet or 6 stories right here, which is near the intersection of Baltic Street and Fifth Avenue. and steps down in height to approximately 40 feet and 50 feet here towards the mid-blocks facing Gregory Place. The south building will contain approximately 44 units, as well as 34,000 gross square feet of commercial space, and will rise to a maximum of 50 feet along the Fifth Avenue frontage, and it again steps down towards the mid-blocks to approximately 40 feet at this location and 18 feet at this location. These buildings will restore a contextual street wall along Fifth Avenue. A pedestrian plaza, which is lined with ground floor commercial uses, will be located between the two buildings along the sewer easement. So this is the plaza. The northern building will include 186 below-grade parking spaces. The proposed development would conform with the use regulations and comply with the bulk regulations of the underlying zoning. So here's the Fifth Avenue elevation of the development. So just to point out these markers right here, this is the 40-foot height limit. So the area above this is kind of what is restricted today. Here is kind of a northern elevation of the northernmost building, and what you can see is along the Fifth Avenue frontage is where the maximum height is achieved, where it steps back down towards the mid-blocks. You have a similar elevation of the south building. Again, here's the Fifth Avenue frontage where you achieve the maximum height, and it steps down towards the mid-blocks. And here is a rendering specifically of that pedestrian plaza with the north building located here and the south building here, with the commercial uses on kind of either side. And in this rendering, we're looking north in this direction of Fifth Avenue at the south building and the north building. And in this view, we're looking south along Fifth Avenue at the corner of the north building. In conclusion, in order to facilitate the proposed development, the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development is requesting a minor modification to the Baltic Street Urban Renewal Plan to eliminate the existing 40-foot height limit with respects to sites 3A, 3B, and 3C of the Baltic Street Urban Renewal Area. This would facilitate a new 175,195 square foot mixed-use development with a floor area of 2.5. The project would include 164 dwelling units, of which 25% would be affordable. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Levin.
So Connie, in this case, we've now all gotten so used to thinking about MIH and required affordable housing. On this site, we have to put ourselves back to the rules before, where there is currently no requirement.
There's no requirement.
There's no
that's right.
requirement. So the 25%, will that be distributed throughout both buildings? Where will it be located in the project?
So the affordable units will be distributed in both the north and the south building. We can find out if there's a more detailed distribution, but they won't be in one of the two buildings.
Okay, so, and we don't have to worry then about the, one building being market rate and the other affordable, and
That's
which
right.
gets built first, and the phasing of the production of the affordable housing, it'll all happen at the same time. That's good, okay. And do you know what the term of affordability will be? How long, what's the term of the regulatory agreement? Do
So
we
that
know
hasn't been finalized, but it's my understanding that it's a minimum term of 35 years.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Other questions? I'll also note for the record that Commissioner De La Uz is recused and stepped out for this portion. Okay, if there are no more questions, then this application will be referred to the Community Board for 45 days.
Let's now move to item number 11, page 442, a Manhattan pre-hearing project, 40 Worcester Street, which involves a proposed special permit to facilitate residential and retail development. Our presenter is Sylvia Lee.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a special permit application for use change, returning as a pre-hearing item after review by Manhattan Community Board 2 and Manhattan Borough President. CB2 recommends disapproval with conditions, and the Borough President recommends approval with conditions. I'll first provide an overview of the project. You may recall that the applicant requests the grant of a landmark preservation special permit to allow retail use on the ground floor and cellar, and residential use on the upper floors of an existing 6-story building plus rooftop addition located at 40 Worcester Street within the M15B zoning district in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District, Manhattan Community District. As shown on the area map, the project site is located on the east side of Worcester Street between Grand Street and Broome Street. within the M15B district in the Soho neighborhood of Manhattan, the dynamic mixed-use area. The surrounding area is mostly zoned M15A and M15B districts, where light industrial and commercial uses are permitted as of right up to 5 FAR. In the M15B district, use group 2 residential use is not permitted as of right. Use group 6 retail use is not permitted below the level of second story. As shown on the site plan, the project site is located mid-block of Worcester between Broome and Grand Street. The zoning lot measures just over 2,500 square feet and has about 25 feet of frontage on Worcester Street. The zoning lot is occupied by an existing commercial office building. The building is slightly overbuilt, containing about 14,000 square feet of floor area, an FAR of 5.4. The building was constructed, going back to existing building, the building was constructed in 1896 as a 6-story loft structure, and to the best of the applicant's knowledge, it has only been occupied by non-residential uses over the years. The applicant acquired the property in April 2014 when the building was half vacant. Currently, the building houses some remaining commercial offices on the upper floors. Here's some additional photos of the project site. Here is 40 Worcester Street. Next to, immediately south of the project site is the vacant lot. Currently, no active proposals are moving forward. The applicant proposes to convert the existing commercial building to residential use with ground floor retail. A rooftop addition would also be constructed within the permitted bulk envelope. The applicant proposes to use about 1,800 square feet of ground floor and cellar for use group 6 retail use, shown here in darker gray, and about 11,500 square feet on the ground floor and upper floors for use group 2 residential uses, a total of 4 units. The proposed development also includes a comprehensive restoration of the building as identified in the LPC approval. A long-term maintenance program has also been established to ensure the preservation of the building in perpetuity. Here's the building elevation. Shown here is the proposed as a grade enlargement. The requested special permit allows the commission to modify use regulations in the M15B district, provided that certain conditions regarding historic preservation are met and the outlined findings. The application was certified and referred out for public review on March 6, 2017. At its full board meeting on April 20th, 2017, Community Board 2 adopted a resolution recommending disapproval of the application unless the following conditions are met. 1, no eating and drinking establishments. 2, all leases for ground floor retail space must stipulate that the tenant hosts free of charge not-for-profit cultural uses that are open to the public, available a minimum of 4 times per month, and this must be enforced by the applicant. On June 9th, 2017, the Manhattan Borough President issued recommendation to approve the application, provided that the applicant keeps their commitment to CB2, continues to work with Indie Space, and reaches out to DCLA and EDC's Made in New York program for potential cultural and creative organizations for ground floor space. This concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Levin.
I guess I couldn't help but noting that we've had a lot of letters on applications like this from the Manhattan Borough President, but it seems that this one expresses an increased degree of frustration that I think we all feel as these applications come before us. But she notes that concern about the trigger for MIH and a commitment that was made apparently, or expressions of that HPD would consider how MIH would apply to special permits in light of the continuing stream of applications. This one falls just below the 12,500 foot threshold for MIH because of a concern that the borough president had that this was going to produce, requests for conversions exactly like this. And she also repeats her frustration with the fact that the Soho NoHo study has not advanced. Is there anything that staff that we should know about on this application that's any different from previous applications? Has there been progress made on any of those undertakings?
I'm glad to answer that one, because I also, in just 3 months, have noted a number of letters coming in, and that this one, the tone was markedly sharper while still supporting the application. We will be taking up again the next phase of the Soho NoHo later this year. I think we have to be realistic about the workload of the department, and if we look at what the Manhattan office has been doing with East Midtown, with East Harlem, with Inwood, and with the steady stream of private applications, it is a matter that I will admit I let slip for the first 3 months on the job. I do anticipate later this year that we will continue with the study. I do, though, want to interject a note of caution that it is a community with widely varying views, and possibly elected officials with widely varying views about what the future should be. And so I think we should prepare ourselves for a robust discussion, but I don't necessarily know that there are easy solutions. I certainly am prepared during the time it takes, and this will not be a quick 1-month study, to continue receiving memos of this type from the borough president. I also want to assure the commissioners I've discussed it directly with the borough president. So, any other comments on this one? If not, it will go to the public hearing on Wednesday.
Thank you. Let's now move to item number 12, page 489, a Brooklyn pre-hearing application with respect to proposed UDAP designation project approval and disposition of city-owned property to facilitate a mixed-use development, including affordable housing. Amy Pivac is our presenter, page 489. I believe Commissioner De La Luz is accusing on this one as well.
Good afternoon. So this is an application by the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development for an urban development action area project designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property to facilitate the development of a mixed commercial residential building with 103 affordable dwelling units at 1618 Fulton Street in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Community District 3, Brooklyn. The proposed action would facilitate the development of an 11-story, 85,000 square foot mixed-use development consisting of about 103 dwelling units on the 2nd through 11th floors and ground floor retail space. The 103 rental units would be a mix of studio, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. All residential units would be rent restricted and affordable to households at a mix of incomes. 20% of the units would be permanently affordable under the voluntary inclusionary housing program. The project area is located in the southern section of Bedford-Stuyvesant in a predominantly residential area. It's located on the Fulton Street commercial corridor at the eastern end of the Bedford-Stuyvesant Gateway Business Improvement District. The project area was rezoned in 2007 as part of the larger Bedford-Stuyvesant South rezoning, which rezoned the majority of the project area to an R7D residential district with a C24 commercial overlay, which requires continuous non-residential frontage on the ground floor. A voluntary inclusionary housing designated area was also designated in areas coterminous with the R7D zoning district. So across the street, you can see here is the Risley Den Towers, a 6-story residential complex. And the project area is also located a block away from the Interfaith Medical Center on Atlantic Avenue. So the development site fronts on Fulton Street, which is a wide street measuring 80 feet in width. The street conditions there, and then across the street. The project area comprises 3 city-owned lots located along Fulton Street, which are shown here in pink. The project area is under city ownership, and all of these 3 lots are currently vacant. These lots would be disposed of to the project sponsor. The proposed development site encompasses the project area and includes an additional 5 privately owned lots. The development team has acquired the 5 lots to create an assemblage that will then be developed with the proposed project. The 5 additional lots are not subject to this or any land use actions. So this application was certified on March 20th. Subsequent to certification, HPD made some changes to the project programming. They were previously proposing 96 residential units and are now proposing to do 103 units. Community Board 3 held a public hearing on this application on May 1st.
This was followed by a vote that resulted in a tally of 28 votes in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. The Borough President held a public hearing on this application on May 3rd, and we're awaiting their recommendation on this hopefully today.
Questions from commissioners? Vice Chair Knuckles?
Just curious, what was the loan opposition rationale?
Yeah, I actually tried to get more information on that, but was just told that some people just like vote against things. That was what the district manager said. So unfortunately, I wasn't there, so I didn't hear.
We've never seen that before.
Yeah.
The old human
There's always-
condition.
Commissioner Buddy?
So, I'm gonna ask a few questions that Michelle usually asks. What is the AMI for the neighborhood? What are the unit breakdowns? And that's it.
The AMI is 37,234. For unit breakdown, do you mean AMI, bedroom
Well,
count?
both AMI and size, that was the third question.
Yes, okay, so for AMIs, there'll be 26 units at 60%, 21 units at 80%, 10 units at 100%, and 46 at 130%. As for the bedroom mix, this is something that changed on Friday when HPD changed the programming. They are now proposing to do 26 studios, 46 one-bedrooms, and 31 two-bedrooms. And they are no longer planning to provide three-bedroom apartments.
Can you repeat that again for me?
Sure. 26 studios, 46 one-bedrooms, and 31 two-bedrooms.
Thank you.
And those 3 bedrooms due to,
They said they were looking into changing the programming due to financing reasons, but I have not been able to understand beyond that what the reasoning is.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Levin?
Yes, so looking at the proposed mix of AMI levels in this project and realizing that it does include, the site does include a substantial amount of city-owned property. One of my questions at the public hearing is whether we can't be doing a little bit better on affordability on this particular project. It doesn't look like there's a great match between the current AMI in the neighborhood and the units that will be provided here. And, you know, when we have a substantial amount of city-owned property in a project, we usually try to reach for something a little better. So hope we can learn more about that at the hearing. Thank you.
Other comments? Okay, this will go for public hearing on Wednesday.
Let's now go to item number 13, page 508, the Maple Street Open Space and Garden, which involves proposed site selection and acquisition of property. Our presenter is Kevin Kraft of the Brooklyn office, item number 13, page 508. We'll ask Commissioner De La Ruz to return, please.
Thank you. This is an application by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, along with the co-applicant Department of Citywide Administrative Services, seeking the acquisition and site selection of a 6,000 square foot lot to facilitate the continued use of this property as a passive open space and community garden. The project site is located at 237 Maple Street, Block 5030, Lot 72, in the Prospect Lefferts Garden neighborhood of Brooklyn, Community District 9. The site is located on the northern half of Maple Street between Rogers and Nostrand Avenues and has 60 feet of frontage on Maple Street, which is considered a narrow street with 1 lane of auto traffic, 1 bike lane, and parking on both sides. The proposed project site sat vacant between 1997 and 2013 when neighborhood residents worked to transform the lot by removing debris into a community garden featuring 12 wooden raised gardening beds, a small 1-story shed to store gardening tools, and a composting section featuring 3 composting bins, which you can see up here on the right, the 12 gardening beds, and the 1-story shed. Additionally, the western portion of the lot was converted into passive open space, enhanced by 3 trees, including an established willow tree and seating. The applicant is proposing to maintain the lot's current use as a passive open space and garden. Upon acquisition, Parks would install new fencing and signage, as well as make repairs to the sidewalk in front of the lot and minor improvements to the site's passive open space. Parks Department would establish an agreement with the current gardeners to operate a portion of the site as a Green Thumb community garden, while the remaining portion of the space would be designated and maintained as public open space for passive recreation. In conclusion, the action necessary to facilitate the assignment of the project site to the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation for continued community garden and passive recreation uses includes a combination site selection and acquisition by the city. On April 25th, Community Board 9 voted to approve the project with no conditions, 25 in favor, 0 opposed. Additionally, the Borough President recommends approving with no conditions. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Reade.
Just out of curiosity, given that the ownership of the property is indeterminate at this time, is the acquisition through condemnation? How does the city go about acquiring the site?
I'll let the applicant allude to that on Wednesday at the public hearing.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so this will go to the public hearing on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Let's now go to item number 14, page 529. Proposed special permit to facilitate commercial use and accessory signage at 120 Kingston Avenue. Our presenter is Corinne Manning from the Brooklyn office. On item number 14, page 529, Brooklyn pre-hearing.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. 120 Kingston LLC seeks a special permit pursuant to Section 74-711 of the zoning resolution to modify the applicable use regulations of Section 2210 to reestablish the Kingston Lounge, a use group 6 commercial use on the ground floor and in the cellar of an existing 3-story building, and allow the restoration of accessory commercial signage at 120 Kingston Avenue, located in an R6 zoning district within the Crown Heights North Historic District and Brooklyn Community District 8. The Kingston Lounge was a renowned jazz club which opened in 1944 and occupied the ground floor and cellar of the existing building located at the proposed development site. During the 1980s, the club, as well as the apartments above, began to fall into disrepair, and by 2001, the building was vacant. The proposed project site is located within the Crown Heights North Historic District, approved by the LPC in 2007. The existing building located at the proposed development site is a Renaissance Revival style flats building built around 1900, with a streamlined style storefront added in the mid-20th century. The LPC approved the necessary exterior facade work for the proposed development and has issued a certificate of appropriateness for such work, as well as a certificate of no effect for the proposed restorative work. The proposed development site is located in an R6 zoning district, and the surrounding area is characterized by R6 and R6 C13 zoning districts. R6 zoning districts permit medium-density residential and community facility uses. C13 commercial overlays allow commercial uses at an FAR of 2.0 when mapped over R6 districts and permit accessory commercial signage. At the intersection of Kingston Avenue and Bergen Street, where the subject block is located, a C13 commercial overlay covers 3 corners of the block, excluding the block where the subject site is located. The surrounding area is generally characterized by residential, multifamily, and walk-up townhomes, with some community facilities and commercial retail establishments. Side streets are characterized by brownstones ranging in height from 2 to 4 stories. The proposed development site is within a half-mile from the Kingston Troop C station, as well as the Kingston Ave stop on the 3 line. The B43 bus runs northbound on Kingston Avenue. Many ground floor commercial establishments line the section of Kingston Avenue, including eating and drinking establishments, retail stores, laundromats, salons, and commercial offices. The proposed development site is located at 120 Kingston Avenue, block 1222, lot 40, in an R6 zoning district. The site has 94 feet of frontage on Bergen Street and 18 feet 6 inches of frontage on Kingston Avenue, with a total lot area of just over 1,700 square feet. The existing building is a 3-story building with a cellar. It has 6,000 square feet of gross floor area and an existing legal non-complying zoning floor area of 4,500 square feet or 2.6 FAR. The existing building is currently vacant and in dilapidated condition. Pursuant to the special permit, the applicant proposes to reestablish the Kingston Lounge at the ground floor and cellar of the existing building located at the proposed development site. Separate from the subject application, the applicant intends to restore residential apartments on the 2nd and 3rd floor with 2 dwelling units per floor. The applicant proposes interior alterations to restore the use of the ground floor and cellar, each approximately 1,500 square feet, as the Kingston Lounge, a use group 6 commercial use. The accessory commercial signage to be restored consists of a total of 130 square feet of illuminated, non-flashing signage, including 28 square feet of signage on Kingston Avenue and 102 square feet of signage on Bergen Street. The accessory commercial signage to be restored will project 12 inches past the street line and will be 14 feet above the base plane. In order to restore a use group 6 commercial use on the ground floor and in the cellar of the existing building, as well as permit the restoration of exterior commercial signage, a special permit pursuant to section 74-711 is required. This special permit allows for the modification of use and bulk in order to further the preservation of designated landmark buildings or buildings located within historic districts. The requested special permit will ensure the historical features of the existing building will be restored and brought up to a sound first-class condition, and that a continued maintenance program will be established and implemented to ensure the building is properly maintained in a sound condition. The requested special permit will facilitate the restoration of the Kingston Lounge, a long-standing commercial use at the proposed development site, which the applicants have stated is historically and culturally significant to the neighborhood and consistent with existing uses within the surrounding area. Community Board 8 held a public hearing on this item on May 4th, 2017, and voted on May 11th, 2017, with 32 in favor, 1 against, and 4 abstaining, to recommend approval of the application. The Brooklyn Borough President issued a recommendation of approval.
Questions from commissioners? We'll learn more about this at the public hearing on Wednesday.
Let's now go to item number 15, page 565, 50 Nevin Street rezoning, which involves proposed zoning map and zoning text amendments to facilitate supportive and affordable housing. Now, our presenter is Anan Amin from the Brooklyn office. We're on item number 15, page 565.
Afternoon, Commissioners. 50 Nevin Street rezoning. This is an application by the Institute of Community Living to rezone a C61 district to a C64 district within the special downtown Brooklyn district, and to designate a new mandatory inclusionary housing area to facilitate the enlargement of an existing building that would result in an approximately 95,000 square foot supportive and affordable housing development with ground floor retail in downtown Brooklyn, Community District 2. The project area is located on the east end of a block on Nevin Street, bounded by Skimmerhorn Street to the north and State Street to the south. The surrounding area to the north is part of downtown Brooklyn, the city's third largest central business district, with a range of high-density mixed-use residential buildings, commercial offices, and community facilities. To the south is, the area to the south is within Boram Hill, primarily residential neighborhood that consists of 3 to 5-story brownstone row houses, medium-density apartment buildings, and a major commercial corridor along Atlantic Avenue. The area is extremely well served by transit with the 2, 3, 4, 5 AC, BD, and R and Q lines all within 3 blocks, along with numerous bus lines running along Fulton Street, Livingston Street, and Atlantic Avenue. The immediate context area adjacent to the project area has been rapidly changing over the last 5 years and includes a mix of residential buildings, hotels, and mixed-use developments. Directly adjacent to the west along Skimmerhorn Street is a new 15-story, 246-room hotel. Directly north across Skimmerhorn Street is a 3-story house of worship and a new 13-story, 202-room hotel. Moving east along Skimmerhorn Street and diagonally across the street is a new 21-story residential building with ground floor retail under construction. Further east on the northern side of Skimmerhorn Street is a new 54-story mixed residential tower. Across Nevin Street to the east is a 3-story office building with tenants that include New York City Human Resources Administration and the Jane Barker Brooklyn Child Advocacy Center. South of this site, State Street is primarily residential, containing 3 to 5-story row houses and brownstones. The proposed development site is an L-shaped corner lot located at the intersection of Nevin Street and Skimmerhorn Street. The development site is split between a C61 and an R6B zoning district and is within the special downtown Brooklyn district. The C61 allows for a mix of uses at different densities, including commercial uses with a max FAR of 6, residential uses with a max of 3.44, and community facility uses with a max of 6.5. The R6B district allows for community facilities and residential use with a max FAR of 2 and a max height of 50 feet. The C61 portion of the site is also within the Skimmerhorn Street height limitation area B and has a max height limit of 140 feet. The project area is generally coterminous with the proposed development site, Lot 37, but for a 10-foot sliver of applicant-controlled lots, 43, 44, and 45, that are within the rezoning boundary. These applicant-controlled properties are abutting the development site and front on State Street, are improved with overbuilt attached 4-story row houses that are used as community facilities with sleeping accommodations. The proposed development site is on Lot 37 and is improved with a 7-story, approximately 58,000 square foot supportive housing facility fronting on Nevin Street and a 10-space, approximately 3,800 square foot surface parking lot on Skimmerhorn Street. The existing building rises to a height of 105 feet and is currently built to an FAR of 4.54. The existing building was built in 1913 for the Young Women's Christian Association. ICL, an experienced non-for-profit provider of supportive housing for New York, for people in New York, took over the operations of the existing building in 1986 as part of a change of provider initiative by New York State's Office of Mental Health. ICL established the Stepping Stone Treatment Residence, a 150-bed transitional residence for single adults with severe mental illness. Residents currently live in outmoded single-room occupancy units that are about 120 square feet with shared bathrooms on each floor. A congregate dining program is offered, which includes 3 meals per day. On-site supportive housing services are provided to all residents. The applicant is proposing an enlargement and renovation of an existing building that would create an approximately 95,000 square foot, 100% affordable and supportive housing building with approximately 3,800 square feet of ground floor retail. By expanding on a lot that they own, ICL believes that they can implement their mission of providing modern, sustainable supportive housing and vital services in a neighborhood with extremely high land costs and a scarcity of viable sites. The enlargement would rise 120 feet and would comply with the C64 regulations for the site and is well within the maximum height limit of 140 within the Skimmerhorn Street height limitation area. ICL proposes to redevelop the site with a total of 128 units. This would include a renovation of the existing outmoded SROs. The proposed development would be 61% supportive housing and 39% affordable housing with the units integrated on each floor. This percentage would also bring the building into compliance with the Federal Olmstead Act, which prohibits unnecessary segregation of persons of disabilities. The enlargement would consist of a new 10-story horizontal enlargement on the surface parking lot portion of the development site, abutting and integrated with the existing building, and a 3-story vertical enlargement over the northern portion of the existing site. As seen in the axons, the development would be consistent with the character by leaving the State Street side alone within the R6B district and focusing the enlargement along the 80-foot wide Skimmerhorn Street. Rising to a height of 120, the building is under the 140-foot height limit. The proposed actions were certified and referred by the City Planning Commission on April 3rd. Community Board 2 held a public hearing on April 19th and voted on May 10th to approve the zoning change and the text amendment, 33-1 with 1 abstention. On June 14th, the Borough President recommended that the CPC and the City Council approve the application with conditions. That condition included that ICL provide a written letter to the City Council and try to do the following. Include a cultural organization on the ground floor space, continue to explore green infrastructure components to the building, and to retain Brooklyn-based contractors and subcontractors within the project. Additionally, the applicants have provided a letter addressing some of the questions brought up during certification. That's in your packet. In conclusion, these actions would facilitate the enlargement of an existing building that would result in an approximately 95,000 square foot, 100% affordable and supportive housing development with ground floor retail located at 50 Nevins in downtown Brooklyn, Community District 2.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Dwell.
You noted the borough president's recommendations. Are there any responses or comments by the applicant to the BP's recommendations?
Yeah, so ICL responded with a letter to the BPL that's also in the BP recommendation. And so they mentioned that with the cultural facility use on the ground floor, they are hoping to work with the BP to get subsidy to finance that. They're sort of tied to HPD financing and would need sort of market rate rents on the ground floor. And then with the green infrastructure aspects, they're building a solar-ready building, but they also would need additional financing to sort of make sure the other components come together. And then they are abiding by the rules of subcontractors and contractors that they can within the current confines.
Thank you.
Commissioner Levin.
I may have missed something, and we got a lot of paper this time around. I don't think I got the borough president's letter.
Oh, okay.
So can you just check that we all got it?
Okay.
Or if it's on the, or just tell us it's on the is it on the FTP site? I couldn't find it.
Okay.
We'll make sure you get it.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, public hearing on Wednesday.
Commissioners, before we go to the proposed city council modifications, we do have an added item for the Prince and Tillery Street project, which involves zoning map and zoning text amendments to facilitate a mixed-use development, including affordable housing, and our presenter is once again Anon.
All right, Tillery and Prince Street rezoning. This is a private application by YYY Brooklyn LLC to rezone a R6 district to a C64 district within the special downtown Brooklyn district, and to requesting zoning text amendments to facilitate a new approximately 234,000 square foot mixed residential development with ground floor retail in downtown Brooklyn, Community District 2. The site's located in the middle of three major economic centers, downtown Brooklyn, Dumbo, and the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Collectively, these areas make up the burgeoning Brooklyn Tech Triangle. Just to the north is a mixed residential and commercial neighborhood of Bridge Plaza. To the east is a mixed residential, commercial, industrial neighborhood of Wallabout, and the primarily residential neighborhood of Fort Greene. And to the south and west is downtown Brooklyn, the city's third largest central business district. The proposed project area is located on the northwest corner of a superblock bounded by the 150-foot wide Tillery Street to the north, 58-foot wide Navy Street to the east, 75-foot wide Myrtle Avenue to the south, and the 50-foot wide Prince Street to the west. The Flatbush Avenue extension that connects the Manhattan Bridge to Flatbush Avenue is 2 blocks to the west, while across the thoroughfare is a 5.5 million square foot Metrotech commercial and academic campus and the 2-acre McLaughlin Park. East of the Flatbush Avenue extension and south of Tillery Street, many new developments have occurred, including a 12-story mixed residential hotel, a 14-story hotel, and a handful of high-rise residential towers between 35 and 40 stories and rising to approximately 400 feet. Looking north, the 300-acre Brooklyn Navy Yard Industrial Park and Nitrous Farragut houses are 3 blocks away, while Brooklyn's first park, the 10.4-acre Commodore Barry Park, is 2 blocks away. The Brooklyn-Queens Expressway is directly north of the project area, and Nitrous Ingersoll Houses borders the site to the south and east. The area is well served by transit with the 2, 3, 4, 5 BD, N, R, and Q lines all within 6 blocks to the south, along with numerous bus lines running on Tillery Street, Myrtle Avenue, and Flushing Avenue. The immediate context adjacent to the project area has seen change over the past decade and includes a mix of residential towers, loft conversions, hotels, community facilities, and storage facilities. Immediately west on Prince Street is a two-story combined firehouse and police station with a parking lot. Further south on Prince Street, several new residential towers have been constructed since 2009, including the 400-foot-high Brooklyn Air and the 393-foot-high Avalon Fort Greene. Fronting on Tillery Street to the northwest is a 12-story converted residential loft building, and directly across the street is a large parcel of land used as a parking lot by the NYPD and occupied by both the east and westbound exit ramps from the BQE. Lastly, the NYCHA's Ingersoll Houses campus is to the southeast and is improved with 21 residential buildings ranging from 6 to 11 stories and a tower in a park setting. The proposed rezoning area consists of 3 tax lots, Lot 100, Lot 104, and a portion of Lot 1. Contains approximately 42,000 square feet of lot area and is a 210 by 200 square foot rectangle. Lot 100, the proposed development site, is a 19,524 square foot irregular L-shaped lot with 79 feet of frontage along Tillery Street and an approximately 88 feet of frontage on Prince Street. This site is improved with a 5-story 114,500 square foot public storage facility that rises to 56 feet and is overbuilt to an FAR of 5.86. Lot 104 is at the corner of the superblock, is improved with an 8-story, 80-foot-high, approximately 65,000 square foot community facility with sleeping accommodations and is overbuilt to an FAR of 7.5. The building includes a 200-bed women's shelter and a 62-bed men's homeless shelter. The small portion of NYCHA's campus on Lot 1 that is included within the rezoning boundary is an approximately 13,700 square foot irregular L-shaped lot with approximately 40 feet of frontage along Tillery Street and approximately 16 feet of frontage along Prince Street. Currently, this area includes an underutilized fenced-off open space and a surface loading area, which is used by the storage facility under a licensing agreement with NYCHA. The proposed rezoning area is directly adjacent to the Special Downtown Brooklyn District, which was rezoned in 2004 as part of the Downtown Brooklyn Plan to facilitate the continued growth of commercial, residential, academic, and cultural development in the city's 3rd largest central business district. The special district is mapped primarily with high-density commercial zoning districts, which allow for a mix of commercial, residential, and community facility uses, up to 12 FAR. The rezoning area is also immediately south of Bridge Plaza, an 8-block neighborhood which was rezoned in 2003 from a light manufacturing district to a medium-density residential and commercial district to preserve the residential character and provide limited commercial and residential development. The rezoning area is entirely mapped with an R6 zoning district. This non-contextual district allows for medium-density residential and community facility uses that are governed by height factor regulations or the optional quality housing regulations. Typically, this results in buildings between 6 and 11 stories in a tower in a park setting. The project also borders the Flatbush Avenue Extension height limitation area that is within the Downtown Brooklyn Special District and has a 400-foot height limit. The private applicant is proposing to develop a new 21 to 23-story, approximately 234,000 square foot mixed residential development with an FAR of 12. The project would include 220,000 square feet of residential floor area with a total of approximately 262 units and 13,700 square feet of ground floor retail. There would be 44 underground parking spaces and 132 bike spaces. In addition, the applicant is proposing to designate a mandatory inclusionary housing area with option 1, which would provide 55,000 square feet of affordable housing, which is approximately 79 units at an average of 60% AMI. This is significantly higher than the existing R10 inclusionary housing program that currently exists within the Downtown Brooklyn Special District. The proposed development would include a 1-story retail base with a 21-story, 212-foot high residential tower fronting on Prince Street and a 23-story, 235-foot-high residential tower fronting on Tillery Street. The retail base would have entrances off of Tillery Street and Prince Street, and recognizing important adjacency to NYCHA, the applicants are having ongoing discussions with the Tenants Association on the design of the eastern side of the building. The parking garage entrance is located off of Prince Street. In order to facilitate the proposed development, the applicant is proposing a zoning map amendment and zoning text amendments. The applicant is proposing to rezone the existing R6 to a C64 district. The zoning boundary would extend the existing C64 district eastward and would cover lots 100, 104, and part of Lot 1. The C64 district is a high-density commercial, residential, and community facility district with a maximum FAR of 12 with MIH. Pursuant to the quality housing regulations, the C64 district has a maximum base height of up to 155 feet and a maximum height of 235 feet. The applicant is also requesting to extend the special downtown Brooklyn district over the rezoning area as shown here. Additionally, the applicant is requesting to extend the Flatbush Avenue extension height limitation area with a height restriction of 400 feet over the rezoning area. The applicant is requesting to designate the proposed rezoning area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area with option 1 requiring 25% affordable housing with an average AMI of 60%. Lastly, the applicant is clarifying zoning text within the special downtown Brooklyn district related to MIH. In conclusion, these actions would facilitate a new 234,000 square foot mixed residential development with ground floor retail in downtown Brooklyn, Community District 2.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Delos.
Can you talk a little bit more about the clarifying language for the MIH?
Yeah, so MIH bulk regulations apply to the special district, but it's not explicitly written into the special district yet. So we've included in other special districts, and this is a chance to just add it for clarification.
For the full district?
Say what?
For the full district?
Yeah.
Yes, for the whole district.
Other questions, comments from commissioners? If not, this application is certified.
So now let's go to the first proposed city council modification with respect to the Watson Avenue rezoning project, which was approved by the commission on May 10th. Now, presenter is Manny Lagares, Bronx office.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Watson Avenue rezoning was certified on December 12, 2016. It is a private application with two actions. The first action is a zoning change from R5C12 district to R7AC14. The second action, zoning text amendment to Appendix F, the zoning resolution, to designate the rezoning area as an MIH area. These two actions will facilitate the construction of a mixed-use development containing 286 units, 56 parking spaces, and you will have commercial and community facility space in the Soundview section of Bronx Community District Number 9. On April 5th, 2017, the commission held a public hearing, and on May 10th, 2017, the commission approved the application. On June the 8th, the city council sent us a letter stating that they're revising the MIH option from option 2 to option 1. And option 2 requires 30% of housing to be affordable at an average of 80% of AMI. Option 1 requires 25% of housing to be affordable at an average of 60% of AMI, with 10% of housing required at 40% of AMI. So they're going for the most affordable option for lower income. Are there any questions?
Any questions from commissioners? If not, if I could ask for an assent by a show of hands to send a letter to the city council notifying them that the proposed modification is within scope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manny. Let's now go to our second proposed city council modification with respect to 13-15 Greenpoint Avenue, which involved a zoning text amendment to facilitate a mixed-use development with its massing and legally required windows oriented toward an adjacent park. Our presenter on that one is Jonah Rogoff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The City Council seeks to modify the 13-15 Greenpoint Avenue application, a proposed zoning text amendment to Section 62-35, the special bulk regulations in certain areas within Community District 1, Brooklyn, which would allow the massing of a proposed 11-story mixed-use building to be reoriented towards an adjacent park within the Greenpoint neighborhood of Brooklyn. Just as a refresher, this is the location. Just to briefly summarize, the text amendment would treat the boundary of the public park as a street line for purposes of applying bulk regulations and provide greater flexibility in regards to rooftop landscaping and allow a lower street wall along Greenpoint Avenue. The text also requires an 8-foot setback from the park and restricts balconies within this area. For reference, these are two renderings showing an as-of-right building on the left, compared with the proposed development on the right, which was shown when the application was first referred out. During public review, local council members, including the group Friends of Transmitter Park, raised concerns that the proposed development should provide a larger buffer area from the park and increase the setback depth and also include a visual barrier. In response, the applicant team agreed to increase the setback depth along the building's residential and commercial portions and add trees and other landscaping. This is the revised design shown when the application was at public hearing. The City Council seeks to modify the text amendment to codify features of the revised proposal and respond to a growing community-based concern that there be a permanent visual barrier along the boundary of the park. The Council's proposed modification would maintain the 8-foot setback area stated within the text amendment, while adding a requirement that any portion of a building containing legally required windows be set back 28 feet, and that balconies be prohibited from facing the park. Second, the modification would require a wall or a fence if a wall is prohibited by the building code along the lot line that's adjacent to the park. This is compare the initial design with the revised design with a perspective from inside the park. The wall or fence would be required to be at least 6 feet in height along the building's residential portion and 10 feet in height along the building's commercial portion. The illustrative rendering on the left shows the original design, again, and the rendering on the right shows the revised design with the increased setback of the building from the park and also with the wall. Aside from these modifications, the other provisions of the text would remain the same. Staff have examined these proposed modifications and have determined that they are within scope and raise no environmental issue regarding requiring further review. That being said, in addition, while there are no scope issues raised, Department of City Planning staff find that the required wall is not consistent with how development adjacent to parks and open spaces treated across the city, and including within the Greenpoint Williamsburg Public Access Plan, or WAP. Over the weekend, the department staff prepared a letter in coordination with the chair to express concerns related to urban design and how a proposed solid wall would detract from the safety and openness of the park. For the commission's reference, we've distributed a draft of the letter. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Reade.
So is the intent here for us to formally indicate that there's no opposition due to our scope, but that we do have issue with them taking this action? Do they have the ability to modify their current action, or is this for future reference?
This is a unique one. The only matter that is before the commission is whether this is within scope,
Right.
and it is within scope. The department And it's a final action by the council, so long as it's in scope. The department, though, was concerned, as just expressed, that this was inconsistent with a couple of facets. One, we, through our waterfront access plans, try to encourage a connection between the waterfront and upland areas. And secondly, the fact that the safety of our open spaces, we believe, is enhanced by having eyes on the park. We're pleased that the applicant, the community, and the council member are still in discussions, and would hope that it will result in something that is not a 6 to 10 foot high wall. But we, in thinking about what the best way would be to express our concerns, it was to say that the commission makes the determination that's in front of it, and that I would then send a letter expressing the concerns that we had about this modification. Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, no, I certainly share the concern here, and, there's, obviously stuff happens at the council that we're not privy to, so be curious to know, but that's not our business here. It's within scope, it's within scope. But, Jonah, this isn't changing the physical shape of the building itself, as it was shown to us? The additional setback, the 28-foot setback, that was shown to us?
Yeah.
Everything about the building is the same.
That's right.
It's just the separation from the park. Is that the deal?
Okay, then I would ask for an assent by show of hands to send a letter to the council that the proposed modifications are within scope. The letter I'll send separately, but as far as the vote of the assent of the commission is to sending it. As you can see, we work closely with our lawyers on how to structure this.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jonah. So now let's just talk about the future votes for Wednesday. Staff have prepared favorable resolutions for the following. The Baychester Square proposal, which involves a series of land use actions to facilitate retail and senior citizens housing. We also have 665 Annandale Road, which is a special South Richmond Development District, to permit the subdivision of one zoning lot into two. We have 274 Poylon Avenue, which involves special South Richmond Development District certification to permit the subdivision of two zoning lots into four. We have 2835 Veterans Road West, which involves special South Richmond Development District certification to create two newly configured zoning lots. And we have 28 Madera Street, which involves a special South Richmond Development District certification to subdivide one zoning lot into three. We also have the 34th Street Heliport, which is a proposed special permit. We have 62 Green Street, which is also a proposed special permit to facilitate retail use. Next is the Manhattan District 11 Garage and Lot Cleaning Unit. I believe we have just an update to share with the Commission with respect to concern raised 2 weeks ago regarding this project, and Edwin will come up and just share that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As Jackie said, we did receive some follow-up correspondence from the Sanitation Department in their Office of Real Estate, their Deputy Director of Real Estate. The concern was one of odors. There was considerable conversation and discussion at the public hearing about odors and how odors would be treated. At the public hearing, the Sanitation Commissioner stated that the trucks would be washed as necessary, that the hoppers, the sanitation trucks would be emptied prior to their being placed in the garage for storage overnight. After the public hearing, we did get some additional correspondence, basically an email. Department of Sanitation has committed to cleaning the trucks on a weekly basis. I believe at the public hearing they said they would do it on a less frequent basis, but they did commit to a weekly basis. And again, they did reiterate their intention, their policy of emptying the trucks and making sure that they're empty prior to being stored in the proposed facility overnight.
Thank you, Edmund. The next project is the ECF East 96th Street proposal, which involves a series of land use actions to facilitate a mixed-use development, including affordable housing, schools, and improvement to open open space. Calvin is here to also share of contents of a letter which you received.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So over the weekend, a letter was sent out to the Commissioners in response to a suggestion that was raised at the last post-hearing follow-up about the site planning. And according to the applicant, that site plan that was suggested would result in some of the same conditions that were outlined in their initial response letter in terms of the overbuild over the schools. And in addition, it could kind of create conflict between the hospital by concentrating all the school uses on the northern corner of East 97th Street and 2nd Avenue. So they provided, massings just showing where those conflicts would take place between the hospital that's located to the north, Metropolitan, and just some of the conditions that it will create in terms of the limited light in the courts with the schools facing the back of the residential portions.
So now let's move to a project, the Downtown Far Rockaway Development Plan. Commissioners, a couple of weeks ago, you had the first post-hearing follow-up discussion on this project, and now you're going to have the second post-hearing follow-up discussion on this project. And Brenda Pilar, the Queen's Office, will do the presenting.
And just the one thing that I would note is that we'll be voting on this at our next review session because of the Euler clock.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As Jackie mentioned, this is a second post-hearing follow-up for the Downtown Far Rockaway Development Plan. We covered a number of topics on June 5th. I have a number of additional topics to cover with you today, including some analysis that was done on the area's housing profile, workforce, retail opportunities, as well as some outstanding issues from the City Planning Commission's hearing. The housing profile was actually something that HPD developed in advance of the previous review session, but given their response, I did want to cover a number of the items in the profile that HPD prepared. As has been previously touched upon, there is definitely a housing need in downtown Far Rockaway. The local area median income is about $42,000. It's less than half of New York City's area median income. 55% of the households are rent burdened. And based on the survey of area rents for two-bedroom apartments, that rent is about $1,700 a month. And that would really be affordable to households of three earning $68,000, so quite a disparity there. In terms of the unit types located on the peninsula within Community District 14, approximately 9% of housing units are rent stabilized. An additional 33% are government assisted in some way, with 9% of those units located in NYCHA buildings. That leaves the majority of units unregulated and primarily located in lower density residential buildings. Now, HPD is fortunate it does have several partners on the ground in the Rockaways and in Far Rockaway in particular, including the Margaret Community Corporation, Catholic Charities, the Rockaway Development and Revitalization Corporation, and the Neighborhood Housing Services of Jamaica to provide and distribute housing services and information to area residents. In terms of the housing strategy and how it aligns with the overall development plan, there is interest in and support for creating mixed income housing in downtown Far Rockaway. HPD can use its programs to achieve a range of incomes in city-sponsored affordable housing developments, whether those developments are on private or publicly owned property. In addition to the range of incomes that are created through permanently affordable housing created through the MIH program, HPD can encourage mixed income development on city-owned land following a competitive RFP process, which is what the Beach 21st Street RFP site on the municipal parking lot is going through right now. And HPD has already seen tremendous response for its affordable projects in the Rockaways. A similar project, about a 101-unit building in Edgemere, which is adjacent to Far Rockaway, received 50,000 applications, over 1,400 from Community District 14 itself. In this development, they do expect to achieve a range of incomes between 50 and 9% AMI. Turning to the retail market strategies, Downtown Far Rockaway has been previously discussed. It was the historic commercial core of the peninsula. Today, there are some strong retail corridors along Mott Avenue, at East 20th Street, and Conaga Avenue that provide important goods and services to the community and contribute to active commercial streetscapes. However, downtown Far Rockaway has an underperforming retail market overall, and the area does not serve the peninsula like the downtown should. Vacancy rates are high, even excluding the vacancy that's found in the shopping center, which is 60% vacant. And area rents are low compared to the rents achieved in the surrounding area, about $23 per square foot. As the commissioners saw on the tour, there's been little retail space delivered in the past decade, and there's certainly demand for diversity in retail offerings. The competition is a serious challenge to achieving the retail goals in Far Rockaway, with almost 5 million square feet of retail in close proximity and close to other areas with higher retail spending potential. And this really limits downtown Far Rockaway's ability to attract comparison shopping for goods. However, there is some potential for specific types of comparison goods as well as local serving retail. It amounts to approximately $90 million in unmet retail demand, primarily in full-service restaurants, but also convenience goods such as groceries, limited service restaurants, and locally serving retail. The strategies identified in the city's plan for downtown Far Rockaway focus on two approaches for strengthening the retail market: increasing the share of spending captured locally, and increasing the number of shoppers. This will be accomplished through the proposed land use actions, which will help strengthen the retail market by supporting mixed-use developments and adding new retail space and shoppers. Commercial and community facility uses would also be required along the area's primary corridors and near transit nodes to enliven and activate these streetscapes and strengthen these contexts. And those corridors, once again, are Mott Avenue, East 20th Street, and right across the street from the Long Island Railroad Station is where non-residential uses would be required under the proposed zoning text. So looking at the plan overall and its potential impact, with the addition of 3,000 new households and over 500 new workers, this will add significant spending potential and capture audience for retailers. I did want to touch on a series of discussions that came up at the public hearing. One was access to fresh fruits and vegetables. I wanted to point out, this is a map showing existing supermarket resources on the peninsula, including those proximate to downtown Far Rockaway. I didn't add the one supermarket that's in construction right now that is also interested in receiving a rezoning down the line. I also want to point out that there are community farms in the eastern end of Rockaway Peninsula. The Rockaway Youth Task Force operates a community farm in the Auburn neighborhood, and the Edgemere Farm is located at East 40th Street. So this discussion was really in relationship to the proposed disposition of a sanitation-owned site just to the north of the rezoning area. The city seeks the disposition of this site to ensure flexibility for the future use of this site. And while the EIS projected housing for analysis purposes, the city will continue to work with the community to determine the best use for this site and to identify additional open space improvements. Now, DCP has asked EDC to provide a letter to the commission committing to increasing the supply and quality of open space and community garden resources in and around Far Rockaway, and EDC has agreed to do so, and I expect this letter will be included in your Friday packages. There was some testimony provided about police parking and the issues that it creates. The 101st Precinct has signed on-street parking along Mott Avenue in front of the precinct and along this dead-end residential side street on both sides of the street. But as you can see in the yellow circle here, police vehicles are occasionally parked on the sidewalk along Coronado Avenue. This is a problem that has been pointed out and is not unique to downtown Far Rockaway, but the Department of Transportation is committed to ramping up placard enforcement with the police department in downtown Far Rockaway to help resolve this issue. So in addition to the items that came up at the public hearing, the department staff also has recommendations for clarifications in the zoning text. These modifications are really about clarifying to make the interpretation and enforcement of easier in the future, and to ensure consistency with similar rules found elsewhere in the zoning resolution. There are a couple modifications that I'll discuss on this slide here. The first has to do with the private street provisions and the review of publicly accessible spaces, including the private streets and the new plaza spaces that would be required through zoning. The zoning text right now speaks to the private streets being designed to both DOT standards, but also provides flexibility for the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation to approve non-standard street elements. So the proposed zoning text modification would remove the specified language that speaks to various standards being met and allow the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation to determine if non-DOT standards are, to determine whether non-DOT standards are acceptable in that design. Additionally, since this is a large, complicated site, it is anticipated that it will be developed over phases in a process similar to that which is currently in the zoning resolution for waterfront public access areas, and they need to comply with those standards. It was a chair certification process. This project would similarly go through a chair certification process to ensure that these publicly accessible open spaces are delivered. The challenge, however, with a phased development is if those publicly accessible spaces are needed for the staging of development or construction activity, those spaces cannot be readily delivered. So the text and certainly the planning effort for this site would not want to overburden the development of this site with the delivery of spaces that may need to be removed to complete future phasing of the development. So again, the text would be clarified to allow for this phasing to happen to ensure that the space gets delivered while being coordinated with the development on the site. Additionally, I had mentioned that part of the A-text application included some urban design standards that would help achieve the massing relief that's indicated here in this graphic, where building heights vary throughout the site. That was achieved by essentially transcribing a box around taller buildings that limits that length, tall building length, to 170 feet. The issue seemed to be with the issue with clarity seemed to be at what height does that regulation come into effect. The way the rule is applied elsewhere in the zoning resolution, it's applied by a number of feet, in this case 95 feet instead of stories as was previously in the zoning text. So I wanted to summarize by saying that when I presented the city's plan for downtown Far Rockaway back on January 30th and the items for certification, I noted that I was excited that the area was finally getting the attention that it deserves. To me, that attention has come in the form of the land use actions in front of you, the city's investment in the area's infrastructure, an open and extensive outreach effort, and importantly, a truly impressive collaboration between city agencies. I fully expect that this engagement and collaboration will continue as the city implements an inclusive and comprehensive plan for the area.
Other questions? Commissioner Delos?
Brendan, I appreciate the information about the percent of rent burden households and the, excuse me, the information about the recent lottery. I'm just wondering, kind of taking that information and how that's informing some of the next steps. It would be, obviously, MIH is only going to address a portion of the concerns. So I'm just wondering if HPD is further committing to subsidy as part of this process to help really address the overburdened issue, the rent burden issue, and also just looking at family size specifically, or, you know, overcrowded households, overhoused households, and how to match that to future development. I'm just wondering if that's part of an ongoing conversation that's going on between local leaders and the city to kind of get at the gap between where this might be and where it needs to be.
And yes, I think the first answer to your question is that, yes, I do expect this to be ongoing discussions, particularly with Councilman Richards, who has constituents that definitely need housing at the lower end of the spectrum, but also to deliver housing that can complement the overall revitalization strategy in this area. So I do expect those conversations to continue with the council member. In regards to the set-asides for affordable housing here, I think the department, the city realizes that there are some opportunities here, certainly with the sites depicted in this image here that are currently or potentially in the future owned by the city, where there could be deeper and broader levels of affordability achieved on these sites. And it really is the expectation that the disposition site here will be a 100% affordable project, and that the entire build-out of the urban renewal area could produce affordability for about 50% of that development.
Mr. O'Keefe.
Hi, Brennan. Thank you very much for the clarification and where the requirements for Brownsville Renewal would apply, and that they're highly focused in the area where we have existing retail.
That's right.
I did want to sort of follow up on that question. So, one thing I would like to say is that the 2015 market analysis, I did ask her, but I don't have it. This summary is what we got, right? Okay, so this is not the market analysis.
It's an update of the 2015 market analysis.
Okay, because the only thing that Kevin from our CPC
Yes.
told us when I asked him this question was there was $90 million in leakage, and that's the same information we got here. So there's no more depth to it. It's hard. It's, when you're dealing with markets where there's very limited demand, you actually need to know what's going into that number. So I'm okay with it because I think we're okay. I just want to state that it wasn't, they didn't respond to my request. But I appreciate the feedback, and I'm comfortable with it.
Other comments? Okay. Thank you, Brenda.
Commissioners, I just wanted to remind you that on July 10th and July 11th, you've been invited to a tour of Staten Island. The East Shore Special Coastal District and Rezoning was certified on April 24th. And when you have an opportunity, please let Staten Island know of your availability regarding that tour. And on
The one thing
July
that I will note on that, having had the benefit of taking the tour with the borough president during the Mayor's Staten Island Week, it is a hauntingly beautiful corner of our city, unlike certainly the area in which we're sitting now.
Great. So on July 12th, we have the Ebenezer Plaza project, which involves a series of land use actions to facilitate mixed-use development, including affordable housing. We had a public hearing a couple weeks ago, well, nodding of heads. The Manhattan West Phase 3 project, which concerns Hudson Yards open space. We're good. 462 Broadway, which involves special permits to facilitate retail and retail space over 10,000 square feet. You received a letter from the applicant regarding some concerns you'd raised. Sylvia is here to walk us through that correspondence.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. Included in your weekend packages are written testimonies and letters submitted to the Commission after the public hearing. In response to concerns raised at the public hearing regarding potential noise that would be associated with a large retail use, the applicant also submitted a letter dated this morning proposing restrictions on loading. So in sum, the applicant proposes that during 8 p.m. and 7 a.m., no large delivery trucks would be allowed to load and unload on Crosby Street, the Crosby Street frontage of the site. During those hours, if loading is necessary, trucks will be parked along Grand Street, and goods will be delivered to the building through the Crosby Street service entrances using hand trucks. Recognizing that late night loading and unloading may negatively impact quality of life on residents, staff believe that limiting nighttime truck deliveries to the Grand Street frontage only is a helpful way to ameliorate the noise impacts on narrow and more residential oriented Crosby Street. Grand Street is 70 feet wide. It's much wider than Crosby Street. And it has a very wide 16 feet sidewalk, which is also conducive to curbside loading. Grand Street as well as Broadway are also designated truck routes. So staff believe that the proposed restrictions on loading make sense. And staff would like to also note that issues regarding noise, trash, congestion, illumination that raised at a public hearing are really not issues that are unique to the Soho neighborhood or unique to large retail uses. They're common in mixed-use neighborhoods with general presence of both residential and retail uses. And we believe that those type of impacts could be mitigated by responsible practices by a good operator. We continue to believe that retail uses, including large retail, are appropriate along Broadway in this part of Soho neighborhood, especially given the existing conditions in the area, transit access, historic context, and existing building floor plates in this area. I'm happy to address any other remaining concerns, but thank you.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Levin.
Well, I don't so much have a question as a comment. First off, thank you for the additional information. I thought our hearing was really one of the most interesting hearings and engaged hearings we've had in a long time. It was impressive that local residents showed up and spoke specifically to the issues involved in this application rather than some of the larger issues that we sometimes hear about in these hearings that we can't do anything about. It was also, I thought, very good that the applicant came himself to speak to us directly. That doesn't often happen, but it provided for a much better conversation. Sylvia, I have to say, I understand your comments about large-scale retail. I remain very skeptical that it's appropriate at this location, but that's my personal opinion. So I want to put that out there for everybody. I'm not quite yet on board with the large-scale retail, and we'll be thinking about it. Just FYI.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. What I would say is that based on my conversation with my colleagues at City Planning, we do not necessarily agree with the assertion that that a single large retail store would be more impactful than multiple smaller stores at a single location occupying the same amount of floor area. But I recognize that that's an issue that needs ongoing discussion and additional research.
I'd also note that by having the applicant here for a special permit, it does give us the tool to be able to impose these conditions, in particular with respect to the hours of loading and unloading, and we find that to be a helpful tool to address the issues that we clearly heard at the public hearing.
Well, that works only if the permit requires those provisions to go into the lease. I think we need, if we're going to go down this route, we need a lease paragraph to be required, because the disjuncture here is between the guy who owns the building and the people who are operating the space.
Yeah, we would also note that the complaints that we heard were with respect to applicants who had not come before us for special permits and were operating.
Understood, but it's a scary picture of what might happen if we're not very careful.
Okay. Any other questions for Sylvia?
Okay.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have the 126th Street Bus Depot project, which involves mixed-use development with affordable housing and a commemoration of the Harlem African Burial Ground. We thought the public hearing went very well and are prepared to prepare a favorable resolution for this project. We have Edwin here, in case you have any questions. Great.
And I will note, though, that this is not, oh, was this for Edwin? I'm sorry.
Well,
Yes.
it's for 126th Street.
Yes.
Right.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Well, it goes to the discussion that we had with the representative from EDC about the parameters and how to represent that in the text, given the uniqueness. I think she gave a really thoughtful response to our question about why do it this way. But I guess I'm still concerned about how broad the language will be in our action and whether or not that's appropriate. I'm sure Anna will be more specific.
Yeah, Commissioner Levin.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rochelle. I have, as you know, I have exactly the same concern. And EDC suggested to us, I fully understand EDC's desire to set the table for a successful RFP by doing the rezoning now. And that is indeed what happened at Seward Park, which was the example that EDC provided during the hearing. But there is a very large difference between what we did in Seward Park and what we're being asked to do here. Seward Park involved quite a number of special permits and limitations that were put on the development. And we have been through at least one and maybe more requests to modify those as a developer was selected and the buildings actually got designed. And that's exactly what should happen here. If we approve this, just as we, for disposition pursuant to zoning, we're really counting on the ability of the community and the willingness of the city to stick by what they have told us they're going to build. And I guess my question for staff is whether it's possible, and I appreciate that all of the participants seemed very enthusiastic about undertaking that process. I'm not going to stand in the middle of that because it is, with this broad support and the hard work that's gone on to get it this far, that's great. But I'm wondering if we can't somehow restrict our disposition to a program that matches what was presented to us, with some ability to come back if anything changes. But I think it's our responsibility as planners to be sure that we're disposing of it for that kind of a program.
Let us come back at our next review session looking at some of the tools that we've used. We obviously don't want to create unnecessary ULURPs.
No, and that's not my intention at all, but I do think we need some string here or some indication that our approval of the disposition is for a particular program.
We'll come back and see if we have some recommendations. We have time on this because it's not well into July before this one comes up for a vote. Good. Anything else? Well, before our Deputy Executive Director closes this review session, I want to say that this is a very bittersweet day because it is the last of the review sessions over which Jackie Harris will provide. Now, Jackie, I have only had the pleasure of working with you for 3 months. I really wish it could have been 3 years. But even in that short time, what I've been impressed by is the fact that not only is Jackie an expert in matters of planning, she is so respected by the team at City Planning, and I think I speak for the commissioners, by the commission itself. I appreciate your exacting standards, and all of us benefit from the quality of the materials that we get. We just take for granted the uniformly high quality, and that is thanks to Jackie. But I have to say that most of all, what I value about Jackie is how she gets things done. And if I had to sum it up in a word, it would be grace. You do it with such remarkable grace that in interacting with you, people feel special because of the opportunity to work with you. So I want to thank you, Jackie. I would toss it over to any other commissioners who might want to weigh in. Commissioner Cantor.
Jackie, I told you before I never liked you. You've been a pain in the tail. But Madam Chair, you're right, you know her 3 months. I know, I think going on 19 years.
Wow.
She has been a gem. She will be missed by me on a personal basis, and I'm sure the hole will be not easily plugged. There'll always be a leak in that hole with Jackie gone. I wish you the best. I wish you the healthiest. May God go with you.
Yes, Commissioner Besser.
Chair Lago, you couldn't have chosen a better word, grace, honestly. Jackie, you're such a special person. I can't imagine anyone not liking you at all. You have such a positive nature. Your knowledge is second to none. It has been such an honor and privilege to work with you for the past 8 years, and I wish you every good thing life has to offer and the best of health, and I'll miss you terribly.
We going around the table? Oh, okay. Well, we know each other a long time, but only in this nearly 13 years have we worked together. And I really mean one of the real pleasures of having had the privilege of serving on this commission has been getting to know you better and working with you. I agree, the word you used is really the perfect word to describe you. You are always professional, and I know this is this silly word a little bit, but it's not. You have a loving way about you in the way you communicate with people. I certainly have experienced that. So it is bittersweet for me too, the idea of not seeing you or getting that phone call saying, I just want to see what you're thinking. You can call me anytime and ask me what I'm thinking about anything. But I too, like Erwin, wish you the best of everything in this new chapter. I have no doubt you'll conquer that too, and we'll be keeping an eye on you. And thank you for everything, for your love and your guidance and your friendship, Jackie. I'll miss you.
So I've gotten longer than 3 months, but not quite 19 years of having had a chance to work with you. And first, I just want to say thank you. From day one, you were extremely welcoming. And I think your ability to, there's formal power and there's informal power in organizations, and you have a tremendous amount of informal power, I think, in this agency. And I mean that in the best of ways. And I think that in many ways, you represent the soul of the agency. And I just want to thank you.
Jackie, I think I like you even less than Erwin.
Get out of my
This is the most contentious I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm at a loss for words. When I first started, your warmth and welcome really kind of gave me a very warm feeling, a sense of place, and everybody knows that you're the oil that keeps this machine running. And what can I say? You're going to be missed, but after 36 years, I'm happy you're going to have some time off and do what you want to do and enjoy. And so I certainly wish you, and I think we all wish you health and happiness, and we would love to see you here, certainly at our happy occasions, and we want to see you back as often as possible. So I'm not saying goodbye yet, but just saying enjoy your vacation for now.
Thank you, Jackie. Thanks for everything you've done. You've been a friend. You've been, as you've heard, welcoming to all of us. Your professionalism, you've never been flustered. You've been always there to discuss an item and all of its intricacies. It's been a pleasure, and wish you well going forward. Thank you once again.
Jackie, thank you so much. You definitely helped me get oriented to this role, and I appreciate it so much. I wish you all the best and good health in your future.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to know how to be on this commission without you, because it seems to me that I arrived just about the time that you started in this position, and as far as I'm concerned, you've always been in that position. So
I don't know, we're gonna have to make it up. But, so there are two requirements for whoever fills this role. One is when they call agenda items, they have to say, our next item is number 17, page 203 in your agenda. And the other is they're gonna have to up their game on the puns. I don't know what we're gonna do without the puns, but now we're on our own for the puns. Let's bring them in. Thank you very much.
So, Jackie, I think that all that can be said about you has been said already. So I just want to tell you thank you. I wish you well. Jackie and I also share another special bond. We're both graduates of the National Fellows Program. So that's a bond you can't break. So I'll see you planting some flowers and fruit trees.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you. There's nothing more to add, but you have been so tremendous. Early on, any question that I had, and I went to you very frequently with questions, you've been so wonderful in getting, I'm sure all of us oriented at some point in time. So I want to thank you, and it's going to be a tremendous loss for all of us.
Thank you, Marissa. I just want to say, my heart is so full right now that it's really hard for me to speak without really filling up, So I just want you all to know how proud I am to be associated with you. And Marissa, your brilliance has inspired me over these past 3 months. And I just see that continuing, with this very special staff, at city planning. But, I love you guys, and you're really like a family to me. And sometimes there's disparaging of public service. And I really think that as a staff member and as a citizen of New York City, there couldn't be a better body than the City Planning Commission in terms of looking at, and caring, listening, and making thoughtful, insightful decisions about the future of our city. And I hope to see you all in another week when we have the party and, raise a toast, really to you, because I am just so humbled by the opportunities that have been given me, by this department. And I just want to end, by saying it may sound really